Good morning, and apologies for starting a little bit late this morning, but we were all rather taken aback and shocked this morning to come in to discover that Anne Widdecombe, our very good friend and contributor to this show, has passed away. Late last night, we understand. We're not quite sure what happened, but we'll be paying tribute to her this morning because she was a wonderful woman. She was very much in the prime of life, very much a great contributor to this programme. And we miss her. And it's only a few days ago we were speaking to her, and she was as feisty as ever, and as funny as ever, and as scoldy as ever, as she used to sometimes be with me. And I'd just like to pay a little tribute to Anne Widdecombe this morning before we do anything else, because these things are important, you know? And you just never know, do you? Exactly when that time is going to come. She seemed as healthy as she's ever been. I've known Anne for quite a few years now, and she's done some incredible things. She's always stood up for what she believed in. She's always said what she thought. She's never kowtowed to anyone. She's never changed her views because it was likely to get her elected. She's never decided that she should suddenly become something she isn't, or become something she wasn't. So we'd just like to wish her all the best, to pay tribute to her and to thank her for all the things she did personally for us here at the Mike Graham Show, but also just in life in general. And we don't know yet whether her family are going to be able to talk to us or be contactable, but we just really want to share what was great about Anne Widdecombe, because she was absolutely a brilliant woman. And as I say, we shall miss her. And Lembit Opic's with me this morning. Lembit, very good morning to you.
Hi.
You knew Anne, I'm sure.
Very well, 30 years.
Yeah.
And
what a woman.
she was remarkable in two ways. She never, ever bent on her principles.
No.
Ever.
No.
And the second thing is she was tremendously respectful to everybody. Although she was clearly from the right, there was something about her which transcended party politics. You couldn't dislike her, really. I remember when I lost my seat, she was one of the very few people who took the trouble to send me a handwritten note telling me to take heart and so forth. She didn't have to do that. Also, I bet you recall, she was one of the progenitors of Michael Howard's Doom when he was leader. There's something of the night about him.
Which was one of the most fantastic descriptions of him, because for all of the things that you could have thought of saying about him, that kind of summed him up, didn't it?
Yeah, and
you weren't quite sure what she meant, but you kind of got it.
It's kind of a Peter Cushing sort of suggestion there.
Yes.
If there's one person who's going to go to heaven, it's her. She never drank. She
never married.
Never married. Probably was a virgin when she passed on. There's a huge debate about that. She used to talk about it herself.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that she is a loss to us all. She was here on Monday.
Yeah.
And so if you've got...
Yeah, I know. I mean, I feel as though we sort of have unfinished business almost, you know, because I would have wanted to speak more to her this Monday coming about all the revelations around reform and all of the shenanigans around the by-election, which I don't think had actually been called on Monday when we spoke to her, because it was Monday sort of late morning, wasn't it? And she always had an opinion. She always had a view. She always had something interesting to say and something interesting to add to the general gaiety of the nation.
I do some mentoring of people who want to make it into politics, and this lady asked me yesterday, who should I look at? I said to her yesterday, Anne Widdecombe. She's an absolute role model, because she says it like it is, and her erudition, the way she would describe things. I remember being at a reform conference, and she was going on about LGBTQ, and she said, all of us will only meet two genders, men and women, and that's it.
Right.
It's just wonderfully simple.
And absolutely no nonsense, and a kind of a particular kind of British person, really, who epitomises what we would like to think of ourselves as, if you know what I mean. You know, like if somebody said to you, show me somebody who's sort of British, and you go, Anne Widdecombe.
And she was totally presentable anywhere in the world as a role model. In fact, when I was in Parliament, she was one of those people you could actually ask advice from, regardless of what party you're in, and she'd sit and be patient.
Yeah.
And she made it to minister as well, of course, so she did get to high
office. She was Home Office Minister,
Home
I think,
Office,
wasn't she, in terms of in charge of prisons. I mean, well, funnily enough, we were talking about prisons just on Monday, because that was an issue about, these people who are going to be let out by the Labour government, who are dangerous murderers, rapists, paedophiles, and it was just horrendous. And she was very much against that sort of thing, and just very traditional. I can't praise her enough, really, because I feel as though I've lost a friend.
Yeah, well, we have.
That's
here.
how it feels.
Lost a friend as well.
The Channel's lost a friend, and broadcasting has, politics has, Britain has as well. We've lost a great ambassador. Yeah. When I was in Washington at the beginning of the week, and one of the subjects that we came up talking about was who are the great politicians of the present day. And there is almost no one like Anne Widdecombe now. Somehow those sorts of people have evaporated from politics. And I'm actually really shocked, because I only found out from Charlotte as I was coming in.
Well, funnily enough, I got a message from somebody who I don't know terribly well last night, and I was quite late, and I was about to go to sleep, and the message just said, "Is it true about Anne Widdecombe?" And I didn't know what he was talking about, so I just kind of went to bed, went to sleep, and didn't really give it. I certainly didn't think that this had happened. I thought maybe, she suddenly announced she's going to join the Labour Party or something,
That's very unlikely.
Yeah, exactly.
More likely to go to heaven than go to Labour, I would say.
Exactly. And I'm just really shocked. Yeah. I think we all are.
We're meant to
Pooch is here, Charlotte, quite sad about it all, really.
Yeah, well, it's an emotional thing. We're human beings, and she's somebody that I think we're entitled to grief for, because she is... she's a soul, and she was a Christian. She never, ever hid her Christianity under a bushel.
No.
We almost have to apologise for being Christians in this country now. Yeah. She never did. And she was funny, she was clear. Obviously, it must have been natural causes or something, because she was totally energetic. It wasn't like she was flagging in any way. We're looking at the headlines. Not one of them, of course, has this story. No. Tomorrow, it should be the front page on every paper.
Well, the trouble is, on days like this, when things like this happen, you feel like you don't really want to talk about anything else.
Yeah, that's right.
It doesn't seem right. Well, it feels like you should just be talking about Anne Widdecombe, I don't know if we... Did you manage to find a clip from Monday?
I'll load it up shortly.
What would Anne be talking about today?
I think if I had Anne on this morning, I think we would be talking about Andy Burnham and his rather ludicrous self-aggrandising video that he put out yesterday, standing inside the parliamentary estate, but by the way, he didn't ask permission to film, and as you will know, you have to ask permission to film, and he's standing there saying, I've just gone in and voted for myself. It's all starting to become a bit real. And you just think, you complete tosser.
She wouldn't use language like that.
She wouldn't, and she would upbraid me for it as well, because people have already sent me messages saying they used to really enjoy when she scolded me slightly for being a little bit either rude or slightly perfunctory or just generally sort of
childish,
or stupid. All of which are the things I could be. And she's one of the few people I would take it from, by the way. And I just go, okay, I'm sorry, Anne. I wouldn't take that from anyone, but from her, I would.
She'd go up an octave. It's not grown-up politics, and come on, now we haven't got time to, and that sort of thing. She'd also cover the Pakistan refusing to take back the...
what's that all about? I mean, it was only yesterday, funnily enough, that Shabana Mahmood was saying, we're going to change the law. And we're going to deport him. Now Pakistan is saying, no, sorry, we don't want him.
Yeah, and our law's prevented at the moment. Yeah. But to quote here, this is what she'd probably start on this, because that's what she's talking about at the beginning of the week. A loophole in the 1971 Immigration Act means that he cannot be returned to Pakistan even though he's been stripped of his British citizenship. This guy, Shabir Ahmed, let's remind everyone his name. Shabir Ahmed, that's the person, was released from the prison after... serving 14 years of a 22-year sentence for 30 child sex offences. But apparently, we can't get rid of him. Andy Burnham wants to get rid of him, but apparently we can't.
Well,
she'll talk about that.
The other thing that she might well be exercised about, which I was this morning when I first saw the Times main headline, Metropolitan Police inquiry into £500,000 donations to reform. Have they not got any proper crimes to look into? You would think that Britain was a completely and utterly brilliant place to live, where there are no horrible people walking around assaulting women, no horrible people going around stabbing people, and no horrible people stealing watches and phones and all the rest of it. Instead, they want to inquire into people making perfectly accessible and legal donations to political parties.
The argument here is that it's not legal. That's the relentless inference.
But how is it not legal, though?
Well, I can't tell you.
I mean,
that.
Do you know what the rules are about donations to political parties? Because nobody seems to be able to tell me what they are.
On Monday, the feeding frenzy against Farage, Nigel Farage, caused me to end up defending him on a mainstream station somewhere else. And they started saying, well, what do you think about the fact he got money from this convicted felon? I said, okay, so do you want to start talking about who we all know? Is that the subject? Because I could decide who you like isn't who I like. And it's just all put together, and then they dropped that part. And the second thing I said was, just let the Standards Inquiry do its job.
Yeah.
What the media wants to do is put itself into a position that it's got no authority to be in. If we just wait, we'll find out. I'm not surprised that Nigel's got fed up about it all. We can question or...
Well, because, aside from the fact that, whether or not there are questions to be asked and whether or not there are, improprieties or something in the way that some things have been done, there's no question there's a massive kind of, campaign being put together by the media or certain sections of it, by, Parliament, by people in the Labour Party and the Tory Party to try and put a stop to Nigel Farage ever getting anywhere near power.
It seems to
That's what's going on.
It seems to me what's happening is an opportunity has opened up for the old Uni Party to start pushing him out. That's what I think's happening. And Nigel's got understandably fed up about it. It was only a few hours before me coming back into Britain. When I landed, I discovered this courageous gambit, I suppose, in terms of the by-election. But it's all about trying to stop him by any means.
By any means possible.
And it's not about
because
debating.
we've watched. I mean, if you go back and you kind of forensically analyse what's happened, it started with the Sunday Times attacking Richard Tice and trying to make out that he had got some dodgy tax dealings going on, that he had got some offshore funding happening. He kind of cleared that up, and so they moved off Richard Tice, and then they moved on to Nigel Farage. And then they started first with the $5 million. Gift, which, according to him, is only in the public domain because somebody hacked into his bank account and somehow gave that information out to the public view. Fine, perfectly legitimate question to ask him, where did it come from? We now know where it came from. Who gave it to you? What did they give it to you for? All of that seems to be fine. He answered those questions. Then they moved on to how many houses he had. Again, it's not illegal to own a few houses. I mean, we just talked to Angela Rayner. She seems to have quite a few houses. You can talk to Emily Thornberry. She's got quite a few houses. And the fact that he, for example, doesn't claim any expenses would suggest that actually, he's saving us money rather than, and if he's making loads of money and he's paying tax on it, what's wrong with that? It's just this relentless kind of campaigning. Now they're going after George Cottrell, his friend, who is, of course, as he would admit, a convicted fraudster, as is Louise Haigh, who's currently appointing the next cabinet.
What's interesting about it is, of course, Angela Rayner, after all of the pontification she made, I remember I was on with her about Matt Hancock making a lot of money through I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Or something. And I pointed out that in her register of interest at the time, there's all this stuff that she'd been given. She went mental. And so, hang on, what's good for the goose is good for the gander here.
Right.
And I would say if Anne was here, I don't know quite what she would say. She might criticise Nigel's approach. I don't know.
I mean, when we spoke on Monday, before he had announced that he was going to resign his seat and go for a by-election, she was certainly of the opinion that there was a campaign against him, an orchestrated campaign against him, But there is, and we know that. And there's no doubt, is there?
It stirs up hate. That's the other thing. It actually makes Nigel Farage's life more dangerous. And whether you agree with Nigel Farage or not, what we've now got is unquestionably the need to have this massive security ring around big characters like him. So I suppose there is one beneficiary in all of this, and that's Count Binface, who's been propelled to this.
Well, I refuse to call him that because I've now discovered, as many of us have, that his real name is John Harvey. He's a former employee of the BBC.
Oh, is he?
He's a lefty, sort of, led by donkeys type, who only ever stands in seats where right-wingers are standing. He doesn't believe in challenging the Labour Party at all.
Times Radio show.
Does a show on Times Radio, as Pooch says, and he's really a sort of odious, one of these odious kind of champagne socialist types who went to Oxford and studied classics. Don't you know?
Really?
Yes. Oh. Yes, and so he's terribly edgy and funny. And I mean, I think I can imagine what Anne Widdecombe would say to him. Yeah. So he's not, and he's also written for Have I Got News for You as a writer. So you know, you can
he's part of the set,
you can see where he's coming from. Well, but I think we've got a clip from Monday's show, Pooch, have we?
Yeah.
From Anne. Let's hand it over to Anne Widdecombe because you know she is the woman of the moment. Let's talk to Anne Widdecombe, who, of course, is a woman who knows everything about straight answers to straight questions. Anne, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Quite amusing watching these Labourites, isn't it? They talk a good game, as you would say, but every time you ask them to actually be specific or to answer a specific question, like Cameron and somebody did there, they just look idiotic.
Well, exactly. I mean, the truth is that there was a period in which Labour was totally, absolutely, totally subservient to this absurd trans ideology.
Yeah.
You know, it was a big part of their message, and they thought it made them look inclusive, and that they were being fair to people who wanted to go into women's changing rooms when they still had male genitalia, and they thought this was just being fair. And if only they said, look, you know, we got it all wrong. I mean, if a politician says, look, you know, I got it wrong, generally people will go with that. They will say, okay, well, you did, mate, and you should have seen that earlier, but okay. But he won't say that. He won't say that. He won't.
Well, now, partially, I think the reason for that is because the position itself is so ludicrous that it's hard to even get away with saying, I got it wrong. Because you didn't actually get it wrong. You deliberately chose to have a belief which was completely and utterly, you know, anti-logical and didn't make any sense at all to any sensible individual. And therefore, you now look like an idiot. It's as simple as that.
Well, I absolutely agree. And of course, the prime idiot was Keir Starmer, because once he had said what he had said, it made it very difficult for members of his government to say, that's just daft. You know, it made it very difficult. He gave a wrong lead. But when a prime minister does give a wrong lead, doesn't matter which party it is, when a prime minister gives a wrong lead, it does have, or it does pose enormous difficulties for, you know, his ministers, because what are they supposed to do? But on the other hand, surely this has always been a conscience issue. This wasn't a matter of Labour Party manifesto policy.
No, but it also is a matter of black versus white, isn't it? It's like, you know, don't tell me it's not raining when I'm standing in the rain. No. Which is what they've effectively been doing for the best part of the last sort of 10 years, telling us that, no, what you can see there isn't actually there. We're telling you it's something else.
That is absolutely true. This whole business started to get out of proportion. Hadn't yet reached that stage, but started to get out of proportion under Theresa May, who actually said in terms, you know, this is one of the most important issues of our lifetimes. No, it wasn't.
Yeah. And that was pretty much, as you would expect her to say, you know, people saying this is the most important thing that happened in our lifetime. No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
You know,
and it happens to be right. I mean, she's absolutely on the money there.
Yeah.
The trans thing really provoked her because she was a champion of common sense.
Yeah.
And when you got a prime minister who says 99% of women don't have penises, and a deputy prime minister who thinks that men can grow a cervix.
Yeah.
David Nye, she's the antithesis of that.
Yeah.
You could agree or disagree with Anne Widdecombe, but she was never wrong about the facts.
No.
It was all about interpretation beyond that.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
I have to say, there'll be a lot of people waking up just really sad about her passing
yeah,
on.
absolutely, and genuinely shocked, as we are. We will play more of that last interview we did with her, I think, throughout the course of the show.
She doesn't look ill or anything.
But one of the things...
She looks A-OK.
She looks absolutely great, yeah.
Maybe that's the way to go, though.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. One of the things we were going to do before all of this happened was play something which I was going to say would be quite uplifting, and I think actually Anne Widdecombe would appreciate it. I was fortunate enough to be invited last night to go to Horse Guards Parade to watch this, which was Inspiring a Nation a military musical spectacular, which I wasn't really expecting to see, and I didn't really know what to expect. I wasn't sure. But just have a look at this. I filmed this myself. It's the Grenadier Guards walking towards Horse Guards Parade and doing what I think Anne Widdecombe would say we do rather well. So I was there last night watching that, and I was hosted by a fantastic guy called James Gatehouse, the regimental adjutant of the Grenadier Guards inside Wellington Barracks, which I was able to go into and see, and he's a magnificent officer, and his lovely wife Miranda. And I was invited by Kinsley Schofield, funnily enough.
Oh, right.
Okay. So it takes an American to get me to go to Horse Guards Parade, where I'd never been. And we sat and watched an incredible sort of show of different bands, different regiments. The Gurkhas were there. And I just thought to myself, this is amazing. This is actually what we need to see in Britain, because so much of the time we talk about, we've lost our heritage, we've lost our culture, we've lost our kind of, identity. And I sat there watching that last night and just thought, this is Britain. This is the Britain that I'm really proud of. And I'm sure Anne would say the same.
My parents came here from Estonia, had to leave, otherwise they'd have been exterminated basically by the Soviet Union. And they taught me to embrace the culture that embraced us. It's obvious. If you come to the UK, be British and act British. I happen to celebrate Christmas on the 24th of December. It's just a thing that much of Europe does. But I don't enforce it on anybody else. Right. Now, what Anne Widdecombe would have said is, you come here, embrace this culture. And what you've just shown there is archetypal UK. Yes. And she'd have loved that as well. No doubt the part of heaven that she's in will be very, very British. Yeah. She'll have a Union Jack
I felt in him, and I'm not particularly sentimental about stuff like that, but I just felt it just felt really good to see, and to see that the people, and speaking to my host, as I say, last night, he was saying, you read all the time about the army being sort of hollowed out. And it's very difficult for us, but we still take great pride in what we do. We take great pride in doing these kinds of parades, and it's just very impressive to watch.
The discipline's remarkable. Yeah. But you have to be disciplined if you're willing to literally put your life on the line to protect this country. Yeah. And one of the things that really bugs me is when people mock the changing of the guard and all this. I happen to be a traditionalist, and my mum particularly was a big royalist. Yeah. There's one of the stories about King Charles which might have provoked Anne Widdecombe as well. She would have probably wanted him to be a little bit more serious about being head of the Church of England, for example, instead of...
Well, it might not surprise you to know that some of the views that I heard last night were not exactly in favour of his... a plan to be the leader of all faiths.
Defender of the faith.
Defender of the faith.
It's not, it's faith. It's defender of the faith. Yeah. It's Church of England. And she would have found that irritating. I'm sure she did. I'm sure she must have said something about that at some point. Right. But there are things about Britain which just personify what wars were fought for. I used to go to the Country Landowners Association annual jamboree, where you'd have like 600 acres of stands and so on. And afterwards, it was clean as a whistle. Yeah. It wasn't like a mess. No. And you would see people...
Unlike the Pride Parade, where it's a complete and utter shambles and
and violence
everywhere.
There and everything else. Yeah. Why do we have a month of Pride? That's another thing that would have provoked her.
Well, and another thing that I'm sure that if I spoke to her about this morning, she would be very unhappy with, was last night after the France-Morocco game in the World Cup. A load of Moroccans suddenly, marauded the streets of London and started attacking people, attacking the police. I think we've got a couple of clips, Charlotte. Should we show the second one, where they're kind of marauding around a woman in central London, these Moroccan fans?
Police are going in. man down as well. Jesus.
Go, go, go. You hit the car. You hit the car. You hit the car. Huh? Go, go, go. Go hit your car. It's not going to do anything. Get back in the car.
فوتلوك انا صاحبي في الفضيله
Bro, I had to shut the. You see me, I'm a nice guy. I shut her before. You want to go live? Yeah, man. Get me alive. Yeah. Get me alive, man. You see me, I'm a nice.
I mean, if you said to somebody, "Welcome to London," you'd go, "Sorry, what?" You know, apparently at some points they were chanting "Death to Israel" and free Palestine and all the rest of it. Moroccan football fans in London. I put out a tweet last night saying, "Why don't you just go back to Morocco? What are you doing here?"
I hadn't seen that. They deserve to lose.
Yeah.
If that's what they want to do. Bit of a name drop. I actually watched the England Mexico match in the Waldorf Astoria.
Did you?
In Washington DC?
Oh, in DC, yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And there was one Mexican and about 8 Brits. I was there for a meaningful meeting.
Yeah.
But it all stopped for the match.
Yeah.
And
great game, by the way.
It was fantastic, and the Mexican was there whenever they scored. He jumped up, and then the Brits were going, "Well done, that man!" And at the end, the Mexicans' outburst consisted of him going to the toilet for 5 minutes and then coming back.
Yeah.
That was the extent of it. Now, there's the Moroccan hooligans there. Remind me of what Paris feels like these days.
That's what people say. I haven't been there recently, but that's what people say.
My first ever school trip was to Paris in 1977 when I was 12. It was pretty pleasant. We didn't stay in a posh part of town. We were in Pigalle, which is a pretty poor part. But didn't feel any danger. Now, you look, and you've got these shanty towns of
tented cities and all the rest of it, right?
And they got signs which says no defecation in the street.
Yeah.
Do you really need signs like that?
Apparently you do.
Yeah. And so...
we got them here, by the way. They're running those signs here.
Back to the Widdecombe thing. Widdecombe would say this is exactly the opposite of what British values are about. And as you say, if you want to behave like that, go back to your country and behave like that.
Back to
if you want
Morocco,
Sharia law, go to somewhere with Sharia law.
But this is the problem. The World Cup has been on now for the best part of, the last 2 or 3 weeks, maybe? And every time there's a major game involving an African country, there's a massive demonstration in London. You know, Dr. Congo, as Mark Littlewood calls them, DR Congo. When they played the England game, there was a massive demo in South London, somewhere near Brixton, of a load of people from Congo. And you're kind of going, where are these people? What are they all doing here? Sorry, I'm not terribly racist about it. I'm not terribly, xenophobic about Britain. But this is Britain. Yeah. And if you want to come here, actually, why are you supporting Congo?
It's about diasporas. Estonians, they got nowhere near the World Cup. Estonian for the purposes of this comment. But when Estonians are here, they fit into the diaspora. There's an expectation of behaviour. By and large, I have to say the Chinese are fairly well behaved as well. Yeah. The Chinese embassy, very little trouble, and they're reputed to be good corporate citizens in this country. But then you get this hooliganism. Yeah. But then what do you expect? People coming in on boats, throwing their passports in the sea, and then you've got a government that thinks, if we have mandatory digital ID, everything will be fine.
That'll fix it.
There'll be no problem then.
I'm afraid you to Anne Widdecombe again. Ms. Celia says, we love Dan, rest in peace. She would just say, just get out. Just go back to bloody Morocco. This from Judas Goat. Condolences from the USA on Miss Widdecombe's passing. I am reminded of the prayer, eternal rest grant unto her, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon her. May her soul through the mercy of God rest in peace. Amen. Well, we've got the Bishop coming on later on, Bishop Kai Dewar from Welsh Wales out there in Pembrokeshire, so we'll get his view on that, I'm sure. Caitlin says this, Anne gave her life to her country and her faith. So she did. Chris says, a real politician and a fine lady with proper common sense, R.I.P. Anne. Yeah, I'm still quite shocked by all this, you know. I says, let's all raise a glass to her tonight. Rest in peace, Anne. Yeah, absolutely. I'll certainly be doing that. And one from another one, great loss today. Well said, Mike. Yeah, I mean, we're all feeling a bit sad today, this morning. Thank you, Simon, for your super chat. And it's hard sometimes to put that into words, isn't it?
What Anne would say is, grieve for me for a while, but then just get on with your life. Yes. That's what she'd say.
She would.
She'd be pragmatic. She'd know.
Get on with the show.
Get on with the show of life.
Yeah.
And she'd basically say, there's work to be done. And I haven't finished it. Yeah. And she was self-pitying. There was no self-pity.
There was no self-pity, no. And she wouldn't want you to feel sorry for her.
No,
and if she has gone to a better place, then she'll be ruling it, I'm sure, even now.
She had no doubt that there was a heaven.
They'll all be going, crikey, Anne Widdecombe's coming.
Yeah, well, she'd sort them out.
You better get yourself straightened out.
There'd be a big spring clean before she turned out. Yeah.
You know, this is nice. Watson says, sending my deepest condolences to all who were close to Anne. She became a favourite of mine when I discovered the Brexit campaign and Nigel Farage. I'm in Malibu, California, and I will never forget her. Lovely part of the world, that Malibu. Thank you for that. Because we were talking about the football, we've got a poll actually going on.
We need to restart the poll. So.
Oh, do we?
Yes.
Oh.
New feed, so come back soon.
Oh, okay, we'll come back to the poll. But it's basically where you're going to watch the football from. Are you going to watch it in bed? Are you going to watch it in the pub? Are you going to go to Glasgow to watch it, perhaps? Or are you just not going to bother because you don't care?
I think I'll be watching it.
Saturday night, I think I'll be watching it.
For once, it's a reasonable time.
Well, also
on a good day,
it's a reasonable time. But also, the fact is that it might be the last game because if they lose to Norway, that's the end.
It's possible as well.
And it could happen.
To divert from Anne for a moment, who I don't think was that interested in football.
I suspect no, she's not. No.
But Norway's been smashing it. They've got that giant whose surname I can't remember now. Who's
Haaland?
Yeah, popular sort of
guy. He's apparently become a bit of a cult figure in America. Well, because they love the look of him.
Apparently, Apparently, they've acquitted themselves really well. The antithesis of what you were saying about the Moroccan fans.
Yes.
The Norwegians are really popular. They do this rowing thing.
The rowing thing's brilliant. I love it.
But they're polite and they're decent. The main problem with Norway is a pint of beer is about 15 quid. Maybe that's why they behave.
Well, do you know what's funny is when I lived in Glasgow, I was always amazed when there would be a sort of influx whenever there was a football match of football fans from Scandinavia, and whenever you'd see them in a bar, they'd go, "We love coming to Scotland. It's so cheap because the drink in Scandinavia is so expensive."
When I was up in Newcastle upon Tyne, I lived there for quite a long time. And the Norwegians would fly over to do their Christmas shopping because it was cheap as chips for them.
Yeah, I know.
It was only a 2-hour flight.
Incredible. And you wonder, and we're all sitting here going, bloody hell, things are costing quite a lot of money. And you don't know how they manage it, but there we are. So, listen, we've got Donald MacLeod to speak to in a moment. He's up in Scotland, of course, as well. And we've got his niece, Fiona MacLeod, to do the news, have we not?
Hello, I'm Fiona MacLeod with your Friday instalment. Marvellous start to the day, Britain. The heatwave's still roasting us like a dodgy barbecue, but the real sizzle is in Labour HQ. Andy Burnham's victory lap to number 10 is basically a done deal. 322 MPS have crowned him the next PM in the world's fastest, least competitive leadership contest. Keir who? Fresh off the coronation, Burnham's already dodging his first mutiny. Nearly 80 Labour backbenchers are whinging about his Home Secretary's immigration plans and demanding a U-turn. Meanwhile, he's signalling a tougher line on Israel over Gaza because Britain was too slow. Brilliant. New boss, same chaotic energy, just with better regional accents. Past the factor 50 and the popcorn see ya later alligator.
Fiona MacLeod there with the news, and the big news this morning, of course, that we're all sorry about, is that Anne Widdecombe passed away during the night, sometime late last night, we're not quite sure. But we spoke to her on Monday. We'll play more and more of that interview as we go through the show today. But thank you for all of your very kind messages that are coming in praise of Anne, because she was a unique individual. So sad to hear the news about Anne. She was a wonderful lady. God bless her. says Frederick. And she was a great friend to this show as well. She was on it from the beginning, I think, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Very much a part of what we built here at the Mike Graham Show. And we were very much looking forward to talking to her for a very long time. Anne was a juggernaut, says Karen. Bless her, a rare one and a hard act to follow, R.I.P. Very much so. Let's talk to Donald MacLeod, Donald Cameron MacLeod, who is at this moment in, I think, Portugal still. Very good morning to you, Donald.
Bom dias.
Thank you.
Yes,
Good to see
how
you.
are you?
Good to see you. Well, we were good, but we're slightly kind of slightly grieving this morning for Anne, because she was such a great figure and she was very much a supporter of ours, and she helped us to get to where we are today, if you like. You know, she was one of the first people that agreed to be a guest on the show, which wasn't universal, shall we say, when we started, and just a commonsensical woman that stood up for herself and her country, and we miss her already.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, she was there from the very beginning of your show, Mike. I mean, you all sort of loved her. I mean, she was a force of nature, without a doubt. She will be remembered long, and especially by all that knew her. But condolences, deepest sympathies to her family, and all her friends and those that knew her, but no more so than, folk in Mike Graham Show and UK Live, because she made a big impact on our show.
She did, absolutely right. And we're talking about her throughout the show, but of course we've got a show planned and we've got other stories to talk about, which she would want us to do, as Lembit was saying. She'd just say, "Get on with it. Just don't worry about me. I'll be fine." And that's
I thought Lembit there did a great impression of her. He really did. He managed to get the tenor, the tone right with her voice. I thought it was fantastic. I can't go that high.
Only because I was berated by her so often.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And she wouldn't take any nonsense from any of us. So one of the reasons we want to talk to you this morning, Donald, is because there's a sort of moment in history coming and going in your life as well. The Garage, one of the great sort of institutions, if you like, of Scotland and of Britain, really. One of the great nightclubs, which you've owned for many, many years, went up for sale earlier on, I guess this week, right?
Yeah, I put it up this week after 33 years. It's been a cultural institution, as we know, not just in Scotland, but in the UK. It's been a worldwide venue. It's a grassroots music venue, and it's had some fantastic nights, as again you will know. It was.
I can even remember some of them.
No, well, I can't. but she was, she's a grand old lady, and it's been a sad moment. But for me, it's 33 years there. I feel that I've served my time there, and it's time to move on. And more so there, I've got a lot of other opportunities and things to be involved in, not least your show and other things. And I think hopefully somebody takes it on and does what I do, and has 3 decades plus of success. Such a great place. It needs a younger minds, I think. The nighttime economy, as you know, has changed and it's become more challenging. And it's tiring. It is bloody tiring after all these years. Cat House ticks along, the campsites we go and ticking along. What we're doing here is absolutely fantastic. And I'm being invigorated by it, as you are, as a Charlotte and Pusher, everybody, and so that's exciting. And I'm not saying the garage has lost its. I just feel. I'm plodding along with it all the time.
Mojo,
Let's not take it away. The garage is still open. It's not closed. It's still going to continue until such times as we move it on. I mean, it's got a full diary of bands and and events coming up. So, it's a strange time, but I thought it was the right time to do it.
Right. Well, we've been digging around in the vaults, as you might not be surprised to hear, and we found a much younger version of you, talking about the very famous night when Prince suddenly turned up out of the blue. Shall we play a little bit of that? Have a look at this.
Oh no, it's not really coming up.
It's not coming up?
No, we'll do the 25th birthday first.
Come on, Charlotte, get a grip.
All right.
You can't get the staff these days, can you?
25th, all right. Well, do the 25th birthday thing then.
Happy birthday
And I think it would be about 10:30 at night. A wee queue just started to form outside the garage. The queue starts to build up. And we go, oh yeah, this is happening. Bigger and bigger and bigger. We have to open the doors. We have to let them in. They come in into the hall. And they're now standing there. Nobody on the stage. No gear, no nothing. Just looking at an empty stage as we're playing some, daft sounds in the back. And begin to shit ourselves. We go, oh God, what if he doesn't turn up? Oh no, what are we going to do? And this wait seemed to go on for like years. Oh, Christ. Then the back door opens. The security come in. Yahoo. Big, huge, black, powerful guys with radio mics in their sleeve. I don't know why they put them in their sleeve, but they'll talk to each other like, and they come out and go, right, and they would say to the crowd, okay, we will take the balcony. We want the whole balcony. No problem. When's the band arrive? They'll be arriving soon. Right. In no uncertain terms, do you speak to him as call him by Prince? You call him either artist formerly known as or symbol.
I mean, there's so much to talk about. Did you then have to talk to him, or did you talk to him?
Yeah, only when I paid him the money. They wanted £15,000
right.
up front, and even before he went on, and as that clip, I don't know where you bloody dug that out from, but God, how rough do I look there, eh?
You do look quite rough. That's kind of how I remember you, actually. That's when I met you, that's what you look like.
Oh, burst! I had to give him £15,000. I said, and the steward sat me down. Sat down beside his steward bodyguard rather, and as he said, you can't call him by Prince. You've got to call him artist formerly known as or symbol. I says, I'll call him anything I want. If I'm paying him 15 grand, right?
I'm laughing at your use of language. That was a bit unexpected.
It does.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't unexpected. What was unexpected was me giving him that money, and I'm going, are you going to count it? And he went, no. And he just went whoosh with the money, and I'm like that to him. And he said, if you don't go on stage, if you just take you're going to die. You're going to die. And I'm possibly going to die. I'll be doing a runner, but you'll be dying first. And we sat, and we sat there, and I'm looking over at him as the wee purple midget is just sort of, fiddling about. And then he just went on the stage. They walked over, the coolest guys. Oh, I've never seen them with the spats, the big fur coats, and ambled down on the stage. The place went absolutely ballistic. I mean, it's a long story about it, and then shortened. It was the making of the guy.
What was the first song? What was the first song he did? Do you remember? You don't remember, of course.
So no, I mean, you were just caught. It was high energy. It was full stress.
Yeah.
You're wondering what's going to happen. As I say there, the purple one or the symbol, whatever you want to call him, he was like a modern day Amadeus. He was a genius. He went on, just picks up a guitar and goes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. Incredible.
Like, boom. Fantastic musician. And you're worried, that anything's going to happen to him. And you're looking at these security, and I'm looking at mine who are like that height,
Yeah.
And I'm looking at theirs and they're about this height. I was like, how are we going to kill them?
Right. Brilliant, amazing. And I mean, what a place! I mean, I spent a lot of hours in there, as you know, when we got to know each other, and I used to go to the garage pretty much every night for a while, until about 5 in the morning.
Really?
Yeah, and I've also been the recipient of it's the only time I've ever sat in between Donald and his wife after the place shut one night, and I think it was about 4:30 in the morning. and they both slapped me at the same time
Why?
because of something that I'd said. It's the first time I've ever been slapped on both sides of the face at the same time by two people.
It couldn't have been profanity.
I can't remember, but it's been an amazing place, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had some fantastic bands. You know, as I say, Coldplay, Fun Loving Criminals. They were just always good fun in there. I remember doing a 21 gun salute with Huey out of Fun Loving Criminals, and that was we put out 21 short glasses of aftershock, and he just ran the bottle over the top. Of course, it's my aftershock, and he's just spilling it everywhere. Yeah. And we then had to drink bang, 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 bang. With Tarantino nights there, I remember the police coming in with an old cop, young cop, and the Tarantino night, and people are walking down like Reservoir Dogs and some folk and on their Kill Bill and all that. And this young cop tried to get the armed response unit in because the punters, you know, had like water pistols, and they thought they were like real guns.
No.
And the old cop is shaking his head, going, "No," as this guy's on the radio calling a code red or whatever it was. And I'm going, "Are you some sort of wanker? What is wrong with you?" And anyway, you know.
Did you know? I remember Donald rang me one night. He said, "You never guess who's turned up last night to the garage?" He wasn't there. I think you were away. I said, "Who?" He said, "Pablo Escobar's son's turned up, demanding to be let in for free." Right?
Did you let them in for free?
I think they did let him in, didn't they?
We didn't let Chris Evans in, who might have liked to meet.
He was more dangerous.
Well, that's another story.
A lot more dangerous.
Absolutely right.
There's so many stories. The best one, though, I sent you a picture. I don't know if Charlotte can call it up, but in 2015, there was the 25th birthday, and I decided to have a Roll Down night. And so we dressed the stage up, and we had... there you go.
Charlie the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, and so I was Willy Wonka, and then I had got my own Oompa Loompa, but there was meant to be two of them, and I remember this guy here.
Who was that?
He was 2015, and we dressed this whole stage up, big lollipops and everything, and the punters actually thought I was Willy Wonka, right? Willy Wonka, you know. But you had this midget, right? You had this wee guy turns up, and I goes, "Right, put that wig on, put this on." He goes, "I'm not wearing that." He says, "You'll do as you're told, or I'll fire you out that cannon." And he says, I said, "There's meant to be two of you. Where's the other one?" And he just stood there like, you know, honestly, he was really bad attitude, man. You know, he was grumpy out of the Seven Dwarfs, this wee guy.
Very funny.
And he turned round and he said, "He can't make it." And I says, "What can he not make it for?" He says, "He's at a sex party." Right, which I was there.
Amazing.
See, after we did the speech, I did the speech, and we walked through the crowd, and he was going nuts because all the girls are going up and just slapping him on the top of the head and going, like he's 65, he's wanting to go to a sex party, and he's thinking he's a cuddly wee Oompa Loompa.
Amazing.
I would say you've done more in the last 10 minutes for the Glaswegian tourist industry than the whole of Holyrood has ever done.
I've always done more for the Glasgow tourist than Holyrood, and certainly Glasgow City Council, who have actually destroyed the city. You know, they're a disgrace.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? But those stories as well. It's just, it was a different time, wasn't it? I mean, the idea that you can fire a dwarf out of a cannon, and you can't even talk about that now. You know, which is brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic.
A midget gem.
I know, a midget gem. Yeah. Well, listen, I can't wait for you to get back into the UK, which will be soon, and we'll see you in London. I presume,
very soon,
at some point.
over the weekend.
We'll have to organise some kind of meeting, obviously, for to discuss the future of UK live online. Probably at Boysdale again, I would imagine.
Oh no!
But listen, I hope you're enjoying yourself, and we wish you luck with the sale, and whoever takes it on will have a bloody hard act to follow, because you've been amazing.
Yeah, thank you. But you know what? It's all there for them. It's, you know, you create your own opportunities in life, maybe, as you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you, man.
Alrighty.
Have a
All
good
the
one.
best.
Enjoy Portugal.
See you then.
Donald Cameron MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod. This guy, I tell you what, I met him probably 20 odd years ago, and it was quite an experience.
And you're still alive.
Well, I went for lunch with him. Because I'd been out at some black tie dinner, and I met his PR woman, and she's like, "You need to meet my boss." I was like, "All right then." And I was running the Mirror up there, and so I went to meet him in one of his. He had a few restaurants back in those days, and went to meet him. And there was always footballers. Neil Lennon was always in there, you know. And I went there at 1 o'clock, and I think I got home at 5 in the morning. It's possibly the longest lunch I've ever had.
You can see it must have been great fun.
Well, the story. I mean, some of the stories he can't tell. You know.
Well, I think he can tell quite a few.
He can, but yeah, just incredible.
The few people spitting out their Weetabix this morning watching that.
I know.
Do you know
well,
why?
he certainly raised the spirits after a slow start.
You probably do know the answer to this. Do you know why Prince became formerly known as Prince with a Symbol?
No.
Because he wanted to get out of his record contract.
Ah.
And they said, "We are not releasing you." So then he said, "Okay, I haven't got a name now. So since I haven't got a name..."
changed his name.
He changed his name to the symbol.
Yeah.
So he said, "Since I haven't got a name, I can't be bound to the contract because
Interesting.
I'm no longer Prince."
Oh, right.
And
Yeah.
that's why he did it. Eventually they had to
Wow.
let him go because he refused to cooperate.
Yeah.
That's what it was about.
That's amazing.
Because he thought that they was preventing him from fulfilling his creative potential.
I once did a story for the News of the World many years ago when I was living there, where we found he had a half sister who was not in very good shape. She was
Prince.
Prince had a half sister in Minneapolis, and she was, you know, kind of borderline drug addict, stroke hooker, and somehow we managed to find her and take her to Paisley Park, which was the big sort of complex which he ran just outside of Minneapolis, and she basically wanted some money from him, and we didn't get anywhere. They were like,
Well, not surprised.
He doesn't
Are you
really-
surprised?
No, not really. No, but it made us a page lead at the time. You know, one of those things.
Prince's own end became quite...
yeah, exactly
difficult.
right. Right, so here we are. We're obviously still going to mourn the terribly sad and sudden death of Anne Widdecombe throughout the course of the show this morning. But we're also going to continue to do what she would want us to do, which is to continue with the show. Billy says, Mike shows an escape from the woke trash on other stations. Keep buggering on, Mike. Well, we're going to try. Donald, I don't know if you saw that interview with Donald. It's one of the greatest interviews that we've ever done. It was brilliant. He was talking about firing dwarfs out of cannons and all sorts.
What a loony.
Absolutely brilliant. But I'll tell you what we can do now. We can talk to Nicholas Danto, who's I mean, for us, a newly discovered gem of a comedian who talks an awful lot of sense. It's hard to imagine, Nicholas, that you could actually be funnier than the current state of politics in this country, where you've got a man who leads a party going up against a bin in a by-election.
And fish fingers.
And another man who has decided that he fancies being Prime Minister of this nation and is about to become one, even without anybody actually saying they'd quite like that to happen.
Oh.
He's looking a bit frozen.
You made him... Look how nervous you've made him.
Oh, he's back. He's back. Yeah.
He's frozen and out of focus. Nicholas, are you there? No, I think we need
5
to...
frames per second.
I think we might need to reset that. Should we do some
Oh,
news?
he's back.
Should we do some
I'm
news?
back, sorry.
Oh, you're back.
Try
All
to
right.
improve the connection. Hey, Mike. Thanks
yeah,
for
hi.
having me.
How are you? Nice to see you. So I don't know if you were able to hear what I just introduced you as we were in this kind of pantomime scenario where basically we've got a prime minister who's about to leave the job, a new prime minister coming in, who apparently is in a contest with absolutely nobody, but they're still calling it a contest. And meanwhile, we've got a by-election coming up with the leader of another party up against a bin.
That's right. So it's quite surreal because the whole bin is a quirky product of the British electoral system, right? Whereby you can have the Mr. Looney or the Loonies party, or we've had them all, right? We had Count Bucket Face, and now we have the Count Bin Face.
Yeah.
And these people can have their moment of fame as the votes are counted and the winners are announced by standing next to an actual politicians who properly, we hope, represent the people and their constituents, right? And some people said, well, this can be actually seen as a good thing because Count Binface or Count Bucketface, whoever they are like the court jesters. They point out the inadequacies of the British politics. They point out that, you know, people don't believe in traditional parties anymore. They have been let down by them and all that. And fair enough. But the twist that we have this time round is that major parties are getting behind Count Binface. So the comedy guy is no longer the comedy guy, right? So they're mocking Nigel Farage for having called this by-election, and then they are not running in it, and they are openly, from Lib Dem to SNP, Labour, they're openly throwing their support behind Count Binface. So he's no longer a parody, if you like, but he's becoming the establishment representative. So what sort of court jester is that? The court jester is actually representing the king.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? And let me ask you about this, because, you know, here we have the supposed established parties mocking the actual process of the election. And while they're saying that it's Nigel Farage's fault that he's made it into a pantomime, it's actually their fault, isn't it?
Well, it is. I have to say, having done pretty much every job in politics, you could have predicted that they'd back out because in poker terms, Nigel Farage has got a full house. I would have said he can't lose. And so the others have folded. Yeah. But now, just as you said, they are using Count Binface as a proxy. Yeah. It's like a proxy war. Yeah. And they're sort of saying, well, obviously we don't take Count Binface seriously, but if you want to object, why don't you elect him? Now, well,
we got the Sun this morning saying that there's some bloke called Mr. Fishfinger who's also going to join in.
Fishfinger joins Bin against Nige. That's what they say.
I mean, he's going to split the comedy vote then, isn't he?
Well,
because Binface has now got his own rival, who's the Fishfinger.
And also, presumably...
You can't believe we're actually having this conversation.
The monster raving loonies are going to be there. They're going to be annoyed because they're the traditional loony vote. Yeah. Now you've got Binface.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's all over the place. Piers Corbyn wants to stand. I mean, according to Ty there, yeah, we had Piers Corbyn in yesterday, who wants to stand apparently as well as an independent.
A worthy objector to the climate scam. That's what he'll be standing for.
He is. He could do with a wash though before he did the.
Well, he can't say that.
Well, I can actually. He was here yesterday.
Okay.
But so you know, we've got this ludicrous kind of situation. I mean, it's almost as though comedians are all out of a job at this point, isn't it?
Well, again, that's the point, because Count Binface is an establishment comedian. He has never stood for anything that wasn't pre-approved by the establishment. He has his own Wikipedia page, and apparently he likes John Oliver as a comic. I mean, credit to him, he was invited to Newsnight, you know, the so-called or the once flagship political show of this country, and they were asking him serious questions like who is funding you, or, you know, why are you running, and all that. And he was like, hey, you are deconstructing my comedic persona. But the point is
but you're right. Just a little thing, whether you agree with Rupert though or not, that I know a lot of people in Restore Britain, they said, why is Binface getting the coverage when we're being ignored? Right. And this kind of po-faced ridiculously when I say, so, Count Binface, what is your policy on recycling? Or whatever it happens to be. It's
surreal, isn't it?
Are you sort of joking? Are you being serious? And it's like they prepared real questions, and Binface is saying, this is not what I signed up for.
It's bizarre, and as you said, people have pointed out that the BBC coverage to Rupert Lowe or the demands for a new grooming gang inquiry has been far less than their coverage given to Count Binface. But they need to pick a lane. They have to make up their mind. They cannot mock Farage on the one hand because he's up against the comedy guy or the parody guy, but at the same time they are supporting. That is your guy. That is your proxy, as you said.
Yeah, but that's the trouble, isn't it? They don't know what to do, and the only reason that and I'm not even going to, I've sworn not to refer to him as Binface because his real name is John Harvey, and I'm just going to call him John Harvey because if he wants to be this disruptive, I think we ought to call him by his real name. And you know, the only reason that the BBC and various other members of this sort of political and media establishment like him is because he's a lefty.
Because he's not Nigel Farage.
And he's not Nigel Farage, and he's up against Nigel Farage, therefore he's their champion, you know, despite the fact that he's a completely and utterly ridiculous sort of champagne socialist who only ever stands against right-wing individuals. He never stands, I mean, why didn't he stand, you know, and make a big thing in Makerfield? He was there, but he wasn't kind of anti-Andy Burnham. He was just there for comedy value, whereas now he's anti-Nigel Farage. I mean, in fact, he was asked, I think, on one of the BBC shows, you know, what's your main selling point for wanting to be an MP in Clacton? And he said, I'm not Nigel Farage. He didn't say, I'm not Andy Burnham.
There's a danger in your profession, which I briefly had a dalliance in, and obviously I did so well I'm no longer in your profession. But there's a danger...
I think you're quite funny.
Not on purpose. That's the problem. In my constituency, who's laughing now?
Right.
But when you kind of end up straddling the farce, and then you kind of become seriously, you have to choose, like you said, you've got to pick a lane. And Binface has got that problem now.
Exactly. It's yet another chapter in this sad irony of the so-called anti-establishment artists, comedians, rock stars, you name it, becoming part of the establishment and becoming voice of the establishment, from the comedians who pushed for questionable vaccines to rock stars who shout for more immigrations and open borders, and the Count Binface or John Harvey, who is supposed to be the court jester, but indeed is now representing the court, because mainstream parties want to spite Farage. They don't want to give Farage the legitimacy or the satisfaction of winning a proper election or by-election, if you like. So they are doing this gambit. They are saying, oh, we support this guy, and if he wins, Farage will be humiliated, and if he loses, still we haven't run, so technically we haven't lost to Farage.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, for my money, there's only one proper comedian in politics right now, and it's Andy Burnham. And I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but could we play Andy Burnham inside the parliamentary estate, which apparently he's not allowed to do as a filming thing of his own, but he's inside the parliamentary estate. He's so smug, this guy. This is him saying that he's voted for himself, right? With no irony whatsoever.
Strange thing to say, but I've just been in to nominate myself to be leader of the Labour Party. The nomination process has opened this morning, so glad to see some MPs going in. I'm still the only candidate in the race. We'll get the first indication about 7 p.m. tonight of the first number of MPs to sign up, but the thing will go on over the next few days, so it won't be the final word. But yeah, it's all starting to feel very real. Strange thing to say.
It's very hard to take that seriously, isn't it? I mean, as a comedian, you must look at that and go, if only I could be that funny.
Yeah, it looks like they want to. There was this TV advert in Italy, and the byline was, do you like to win easy? And then it would show a bunch of kids playing against 10,000 adults in a football field, because the idea was, you know, you don't want to really show up for the competition. So now they're having this internal race where he's running unopposed. And again, when somebody like Farage says, I'm calling a by-election, they say, no, we are not going to run against you, but we also don't want you to win. So we literally hide behind the bin.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of mad. I don't know where it all goes at this point. But Nicholas, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Nicholas Danto there, who's actually a very funny guy. He was on Plank of the Week the other day. Very amusing. But Andy Burnham is, I think, quite dangerous, because we don't know anything about his policies still. He still hasn't actually deigned to give an interview to anyone apart from Andrew Marr and a brief appearance on Reddit at some point one afternoon, where they basically blocked Martin Daubney from GB News from asking any questions. Amazing. Didn't answer any questions, didn't fancy answering. And he will be the next Prime Minister within, what, a week or two?
20th of July, the day after England wins the World Cup.
Oh,
maybe.
I'm so worried. Have we got the poll, by the way, yet?
No.
No, still haven't got it. Okay, well, the poll, I promise you, is all about the World Cup. It's where you're going to watch it. Are you going to watch it in the pub? Are you going to watch it in bed? Are you going to watch it in Glasgow? Or are you not going to watch it at all?
Those are only 4 options.
There's only ever 4 options in
bed,
our polls.
pub,
Glasgow,
or not at all.
Or not at all, yeah. We can't do more than 4 options, apparently it doesn't let us. But, I mean, as far as the whole World Cup scene goes, I sort of, as much as you might say it'd be nice if England won it, I really don't want them to, because Starmer will claim it. Starmer will say it's his last day in power, right, supposedly, Sunday.
But he'll be forgotten.
Well, yeah, I know
Starmer
he'll
will be forgotten.
but I just don't want him to be able to go, oh, yeah, it's because of the Labour government that we won the World Cup.
Has changed, and after 60 years, we've actually finally won it again. I don't think anyone's going to take him too seriously. I have to say that Burnham's more likely to call a national holiday. I think there's talk about having a special new bank holiday if we win. I would say that, I want to come back to Burnham in a minute, but I would say if we get to the semi-finals, that's not bad.
Yeah.
One of the 4 best teams in the world. I think sometimes we get a bit obsessive about the final.
Well, do you know, I told this story yesterday. I was at a party at the weekend in my little neighbourhood where we all hang out, and there was a lady from Bosnia who said, you know, what England and France and Spain and countries like that don't get is that when you're from somewhere like Bosnia, just getting to the World Cup finals is a fantastic result, and that's a great opportunity for a party. And she was like, you know, if you're England or France or Spain, you don't know what that feels like, because every time you go, you think you're going to win it.
Yeah, Cape Verde, I used to think it was.
Cape Verde, yeah.
I think it sounds better that way. They're just celebrating. They're so happy.
Yeah.
Norway's probably feeling that way a little bit, to be honest with you.
I would think so. Although, you know, not to be underestimated, Norway.
No,
they've done a lot better. Because remember, everybody said, oh, if England managed to get past Mexico, they've got Brazil. And that'll be tough. And then Brazil didn't beat Norway.
Flaked out, yeah.
So, you know, let's not diss Norway, as it were. I think they're pretty good.
I think that, thanks to Keir Starmer, we have a great England team now. You know, he deserves all that credit.
Starmer,
yeah. Just imagine if he was the coach. He wouldn't got out of the groups.
Well, they wouldn't actually ever be able to take the pitch, because they'd be too busy having the process
what we need to do
procedure.
We need to. Sorry.
Oh, should we have a?
The fact that
well, you'll have to just work on your Andy Burnham impersonation.
It's very hard to impersonate him, because
just talk like a northerner from Tit North.
You sound like
you know,
if I shut my eyes, I'm feeling I'm here with Rainer now.
Get a couple of big sort of caterpillar eyebrows.
You know, I actually have more sympathy for him than you do. I'm probably never going to be asked back now. Yeah.
What?
I was an MP with him, and at a personal level.
Tell us a story about Andy Burnham that's interesting.
That's harder.
That's going to be tough.
Harder. But he's an affable sort of bloke. If you met him in a pub, you'd probably talk to him a bit. And
I'd find him really, really difficult to talk to.
I don't think he is hard to talk to.
I don't like affable people.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, you'd hate him.
And because I don't believe he's actually genuinely affable.
Well, that's the interesting.
That's the problem.
You did make that interesting point. He hasn't committed himself pretty much to anything.
No.
He came up with some fairly good quote about postcodes, and every postcode needs growth or something. I can't remember exactly what it was. But he's keeping
growth in every postcode, I think, was his slogan.
Yeah, it's not
what
bad.
does it mean? Does it mean anything?
It means every
growth in
postcode
every
gets
postcode.
bigger.
So what's your postcode? Can we have some growth, please? Oh, okay, yeah, here's some growth. There you go, some growth for you, and there you go, some more growth for you. It means absolutely nothing. You know?
Okay, you've totally destroyed his comment, his quote now. I do like that, though. It's a good cartoon.
But that's the trouble, isn't it? There's this kind of performative nonsense now in politics where, you know, people just say things, and it doesn't matter if it means anything.
The problem he's got is he's got the unions to please, he's got his backbenchers to please, and back to Anne Widdecombe, would Anne Widdecombe be happy with him? Only if he junks this wokerati nonsense.
Yeah.
And will he? Because he was going on
about...
No,
of course he won't.
He was actually made a speech about Britain having the gayest parliament in history or something.
Yeah.
So that's something to be proud of.
No.
Why do we talk about sex as if it's the meaning of life itself?
I know.
This is so. In that sense, if he doesn't change course from all that nonsense, then he's gonna get a bounce in the polls, but it'll go pretty quickly.
He will lose it very fast. I predict that he will be the most unpopular Prime Minister, even worse than Starmer, by Christmas.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
In which case, no early election.
Well, interestingly enough, I think he's conceited enough to want to have one. So he may have one before that.
I doubt it, because he can be...
Because he's going to know that it's going to get worse for him. And all, you know as well as I do, all politicians want their legacy to be something to be remembered, right? And he won't want just 3 years, he'll want 8 years.
But he can be Prime Minister longer than Starmer. Why would he risk it? And also, he's got 150 backbench Labour MPs who are saying, whatever you do, don't cost us our jobs. Yeah. And that's the thing.
But do you not think there's a certain conceited nature to them as well, so that he would... I mean, Starmer, I think, is too thick-skinned to realise that people hate him.
An extra word there, you put skinned.
Yeah.
He's too thick to realise.
He just doesn't get it. Yeah. But I think most of them would like to be popular.
Yeah, maybe so, but at the same time, he's probably liking the idea of being Prime Minister more. And why would you jeopardise that? Of course, if Labour goes to 50% in the polls, which they won't, then he's going to call an election.
Yeah.
But there's so much mess. So many people angry there.
Yeah.
There will be a honeymoon period. Well, I could be proven wrong, of course, but I think
it'll be short.
Well, compared to Starmer, almost anybody, even Binface would be better than Starmer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Starmer didn't even have a honeymoon period, because as soon as he got in, we discovered that the so-called, transparency, clarity, and known cronyism was gone for a burn, because he was wearing Lord Ali's glasses, his wife was wearing Lord Ali's knickers.
All a bit weird.
At the end of the day, it blew apart in the first week.
It was a bit uncomfortable. And but he did everything wrong. But basically, if you've been in that horrendous situation where you got Keir Starmer as Prime Minister, almost anybody would be more popular. If you were in charge of Labour, they'd be sky high in the polls after Starmer.
They would. I'd also change the entire direction of the place, but there we are. Stay with us if you wish. If you don't wish to, that's also fine. We've got Ralph Schoellhammer we've got a little intro for Ralph. I think you've got that one, Charlotte.
This is Ralph Schoellhammer, and I'll be back.
Ralph, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike. Good to see you. Good to hear you.
Yeah, good to see you too. We're slightly not as happy as we normally would be this morning, because of very sad news about Anne Widdecombe, who I don't know whether you knew.
I just saw.
Yeah, an amazing woman, a fantastic supporter of our show, and just a terrific politician all round, and a great traditionalist, if you like, for what would be formally described as the ways of British culture and life.
Yeah, a voice, particularly the voices that are so much needed these days. It is truly tragic.
It is really unfortunate, and none of us could have seen it coming. But yeah, so we're thinking of her as we go through everything that we're doing today. But obviously there are still other things, and one of the things that she would have always said to us is just get on with the show and stop being so bloody sentimental, because she was very matter of fact, and I think that's what we miss now in this country. But one of the things I wanted to bring up, and we played the clip earlier of last night, the World Cup obviously very much in everybody's minds at the moment, but this is what happens in Britain now, because thanks to the immigration policies of this country, when France play Morocco and the Moroccans lose, they riot on the streets of London.
Police are going in. Man down as well. Jesus.
So welcome to Britain in 2026.
Well, I mean, I have to say, you know the old saying by the environmentalists, think globally, act locally. I have to admit, I think the Islamists do it much more efficiently. I mean, the problem with many of these issues is, and however you want to then describe it, but a major problem remains that we in the West, we still view religion as this very private thing. So it seems sometimes it is beyond our comprehension, or at least beyond the comprehension of the political class, right? That there is a group of people, a very large group of people on this planet, and increasingly within our own societies, who don't see that separation, who say, no, our religious values are not values we just hold on the weekend, and then we go back to being hedonistic, sex-obsessed, secular liberals. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. We follow our religious scripture both with passion in our daily lives on a daily basis. I mean, it is completely absurd what you have seen during the entire World Championship. I mean, you say it's on everybody's mind, but let me ask you this, Mike. Is it? Maybe it's just me, but I have a sense that the amount of lightness, of enjoyability that we saw in previous decades, I feel that this is no longer there. I mean, as you said, look at France. You play against Morocco, and you have to board up shops in Paris, and apparently now you also have to board up shops in London, because you must be terrified if one team loses, they're going to burn down your city. That's just not. That's not a boost to good mood, to put it politely.
It really isn't, and we could do without it. Thanks very much indeed. I mean, we used to have our own football hooligans who have now no longer sort of lived that life. They don't do it anymore, really, in this country. But so now we have to put up with, foreigners coming in and trashing the place because they don't like a football result that happened thousands of miles away. We had the same one with DR Congo. Democratic Republic of Congo, when they played England, there was a huge demonstration somewhere in South London with all these people from the Congo. I'm going, when did they come here?
I mean, you can say that this is one advantage of this is all of a sudden you see how many people are actually here, right? All these people that are supposedly not here tend to be out in the streets in great numbers. But it's more than that. You're of course right. There has football and hooliganism, there was always this connection. But as the average person, that's at least my estimate, and I think your viewers probably see it the same way, you could avoid it. But these days, if people start to thrash the inner cities, that's very difficult to avoid. Like these are not the kind of the localized, excesses after football. And for me, there is always this one element that I always say when people say, but there is also English hooligans and there are also Austrian rapists and there are also German criminals. My answer is always the same. Yes, there are. And we have enough problems with, let's say, the bad apples within our own society. But why would I import even more bad apples? That's like the most absurd policy and the most absurd argument that you can have. Oh, there are rapists in Britain. Let's bring in more. Who would say such a thing?
I mean, we've got this story at the moment about this guy, Shabir Ahmed, 73-year-old, who was released from prison last week after serving 14 years with a 22-year sentence for 30 child sex offences. And actually, it was worse than that because he was sentenced to another 20 years. So he's actually sentenced to 40-odd years, right? Yesterday, we had Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, saying we're going to deport him to Pakistan. Today, we've got Pakistan saying we don't want him. So apparently we can't deport him to Pakistan.
Yeah, and you've got a Labour government that plans to create even more legal migration routes to the UK. So congratulations, you deport one, you get another 100. I mean, the cognitive dissonance between, and I apologize as I'm a foreigner, so I don't want to get too much into British politics because you might say, why is that my business? But it befuddles me that you can have a government, it's almost as if they look at what the British people want and then they say, you know what, let's do the exact opposite.
Yeah, I mean, that's the trouble. And people say to me nowadays, quite often, and I don't know whether you get this, Lemby, are they doing this deliberately? Because there's no explanation really that makes sense other than that. Because they must know what's damage being done to this country. They must know that, Shabana Mahmood keeps telling us that she's clamping down on illegal migrants. But we found out this week that this Home Office has just signed a £30 million contract with an offshore wind company to use their ships to rescue people in the Channel.
No, I think ideologically, they've all been socialized and marinated in a university system that hates our culture and our civilization. And politically, ultimately, the goal is the import of new voters. I think at some point we have to name it. That is ultimately the goal. We see it, I think, especially strong in Spain. You don't legalize I think it's now more than 1 million people that were in the country illegally just out of the goodness of your heart. You do it because you know that the native Spaniards are no longer going to vote for you, so you bring in new people. This is, whatever you want to call it, a replacement or whatever then the terms are that we're not allowed to use. This is what is going on. I mean, if you look in the European Union, the two groups that had the highest share of new citizenships were people from Syria and Morocco. And I always wonder, what exactly has happened? When did the Europeans say, man, we really, really need more Syrians and Moroccans to participate in our elections?
I think that you're right. Interesting point there. You go to Ireland now, there are really angry people in Ireland because entire communities have been disrupted where you got like 25% of the local population, I'm told, is foreign migrant. And I suspect that the other thing is the people who make these political decisions don't happen to be living right next to a house of multiple occupancy with a bunch of men who threw their passports in the sea and claim that they're victims of some sort of persecution. I think that's the problem. These people are totally detached from the consequences that they're giving the rest of us.
Yeah.
No, and it already has electoral consequences. I'll give you a concrete example. If you look at the city of New York, I mean, they did very interesting polls and, kind of election analysis. And if you look at people that have been born and lived their entire life in New York, if only they would have had the right to vote, Mamdani would not have won. I mean, this is simple fact that there are political parties and elements of the political class that actively, pander, is that the right word? My God, my English is bad. Appeal, I guess that's a better word. That appeal, right, to people that I think have not yet fully integrated and assimilated, and by doing so, they are destroying any kind of desire to integrate and assimilate. I mean, I don't know if you remember, I think it was an advertising by Sadiq Khan in London a couple of years back, where you have a stranger sitting on a park bench, and then another guy comes to him and says, we are both strangers here, and that makes us special. Basically, the idea was being strangers to each other is a good thing, which is by far the most absurd thing I've ever heard. But this is the world we live in, where you constantly have this barrage of emphasizing differences and downplaying things we hold in common. But to be very clear, Mike, I mean, I don't know if you call this show also the home of common sense, but it's increasingly difficult to have common sense if we no longer have anything in common.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
There are cultures in this world where, for example, female genital mutilation or, beating up your wife or, marrying a 9-year-old is considered common sense. Again, we have to openly speak about these things. And once again, look at the laws in some of these countries. I'm not making that up. People say, I don't make this up. Look at the law in Iraq. Look at the law in Iran. Right? And these laws reflect the attitudes and the culture of the people that live there. So common sense in Iran or common sense in Iraq or common sense in Sudan is completely different from common sense in the UK.
Well, exactly right. I mean, Emma Wolf put a post up the other day from taking her son to a swimming pool somewhere. I can't remember where, somewhere in London. Might have been a Lido or something like that. And she said there were 3 Muslim women basically getting into the water completely covered from head to toe. I think they call it a burkini, but it's they're basically wearing a black outfit which covers their head, covers their face, covers their body, covers all the, you can't even see their feet. And they're swimming in a swimming pool with other people who are in bikinis. And you think, what the hell's going on? And she said a couple of men as well who were dressed sort of in black, like long-sleeved shirts and long trousers getting into a swimming pool, and you're going, well, apart from the fact that it might not be particularly hygienic to do that, you're in Britain, put a bloody swimsuit on.
Sorry to interrupt you, but it's a political statement, right? It's the same in Austria. You then have all these tiptoeing around and coming up with laws that say, okay, we have to ban, covering your face in public or whatnot. And then I sometimes hear this argument, you have a problem with veiling with the burqa. You also want to ban Halloween costumes. No, I don't want to ban Halloween costumes because they're not political. If somebody dresses up as Darth Vader, I don't think he wants Palpatine to become the new prime minister.
No,
right?
but also, I don't want you getting into the swimming pool dressed as Darth Vader.
Exactly.
If that's okay with you,
Yeah.
What a concept.
I know. Can you imagine going to the local swimming pool? It's comical.
That's Chewbacca.
But it is comical.
That's Chewbacca.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
But it's entirely political.
But I'm starting to get to the point now where you see somebody on a train. If I'm on the tube and I see some woman in a burqa covered up, I'm like, I still want to go over to her and go, what's wrong with you?
I've just got this image of your local leader with Darth Vader and Obi-Wan beat Chewbacca and C-3PO.
And a couple of women.
I can't go in here. I'm going to rust.
A couple of women in burqas.
I'd be completely honest. I think that Palpatine or Darth Vader might be more competent at the moment as the average European leader.
Well, at least he'd probably sort out the immigration problems, wouldn't he? He'd just get the old lightsaber out and, off with your head. Anyway, that's enough madness for one day. Listen, Ralph, great to see you, as ever. Will you be back?
I hope so, and I hope at some point, I mean, we have to announce this, Mike. I have to come to London. We have to.
You
do it in
must.
person. I think the chemistry is way too good to do this just a couple of minutes once a week.
Yeah, no, I agree. You must come in and you can sit here for the whole show because that's what we'd like to do.
Lovely.
And then we'll take you to a couple of the local hostelries afterwards as well and enjoy some local folk dancing, as we like to call
absolutely.
it. Good stuff.
And Mike,
Ralph
at one point
Schoellhammer.
at some point we should do a live show. I think people would love to interact with us.
I think that's a brilliant idea. Yeah, let's get it on. Let's do that. Yeah, it'd be fantastic. Ralph Schoellhammer, thank you very much indeed. Fantastic
Thanks, guys.
man. Great to see you.
Your
Have
show
a
has
great
become
weekend.
just one big audition.
I know.
That's what it
Well,
is.
the thing is, what we like to have is a bit of fun, because life is miserable enough with these ridiculous
Quick
politicians.
thought about the football, though.
Yeah.
What we could do to solve our migration problem is get all of these Sudanese, Somalian teams Dr. Congo to play, and then when they lose, they all come out, and then we can find out where they are.
Well, better than that, actually. How about this? If you lose a match in the World Cup, you have to leave the country, right? So Morocco, you're out. You're all gone, right?
Scotland.
Scotland have actually got the right to be here. That's fine. But Dr. Congo, they can all bugger off for a start. Absolutely brilliant. Listen, we've got Philip Kinsley to talk to. Should we do? Oh, we've got the poll. Where are you going to watch the England match from? This is tomorrow night, 10 o'clock. In bed, in the pub, in the car. Or a don't care. 64%. I knew that would win. I knew I don't care would win because we know our audience well. 64% of you don't care. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Should we have some news or not? What do you think?
Hello, I'm Fiona MacLeod with your Friday instalment. Marvellous start to the day, Britain. The heatwave's still roasting us like a dodgy barbecue, but the real sizzle is in Labour HQ. Andy Burnham's victory lap to number 10 is basically a done deal. 322 MPS have crowned him the next PM in the world's fastest, least competitive leadership contest. Keir who? Fresh off the coronation, Burnham's already dodging his first mutiny. Nearly 80 Labour backbenchers are whinging about his Home Secretary's immigration plans and demanding a U-turn. Meanwhile, he's signalling a tougher line on Israel over Gaza because Britain was too slow. Brilliant. New boss, same chaotic energy, just with better regional accents. Past the factor 50 and the popcorn see ya later alligator.
Fiona MacLeod, he seems to have frozen for a moment. That's all right, no problem. Big weekend coming up, of course, for all sorts of reasons. Philip Kinsley's here. We're going to talk to him in a moment. A couple of generous comments about Anne Widdecombe that we'd like to do. Terrible story, a sad story. We came in this morning to discover that she'd passed away overnight. I cannot believe this, says Francine. It's so shocking to hear. What a loss to this broken country. Rest in peace, Anne. I was a great admirer. I think we all were. She was a fantastic woman. Fraser says this, seldom do public figures evoke feelings of personal loss when they die. Anne is an exception, as the chat shows. Anne, rest in peace. And Jude says this, Anne was a formidable character, never suffered fools and would be sorely missed. She would have sorted the country out in a thrice. Godspeed, Widdy. Yeah, I mean, we're doing the Widdy Weekly pretty much since the beginning of the show, 6 months ago. By the way, I don't know if I've mentioned this today, Charlotte, but we've just hit 30 million views, which I think we're pretty pleased with. So thank you to all of you for making that happen.
Thank you to Anne.
And thank you to Anne Widdecombe for making it happen. She'll be a massive loss to us at this show. She was a superb and brilliant orator. And she was the home of Common Sense's kind of godmother in a way, because she always had it. And we'll play maybe later in this hour, if we can, Charlotte, another clip from our last interview that we had with her, which was on Monday.
I do just want to name one other person we should mention, Bonnie Tyler.
Bonnie Tyler, yes,
she
of course.
also passed away.
Because you've got the sort of Welsh connection there.
Yes, that's right. 75 years old she was.
And that was another sudden thing, wasn't it?
Yes, a routine operation went wrong or something like this.
In Portugal.
Yeah. But obviously it's unpolitical, but she was a very big character, especially in Wales, and she's gone too. And but when you see these people, it just reminds us of our own mortality. And you just think...
And I do that thing, I don't know if you do this, but I was in the car yesterday afternoon, went and got some petrol because it was so hot. I was like, I'm just going to get in the car. And I just started playing Bonnie Tyler songs. because you do.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And I'll probably do the same today.
Be number one somewhere, but also, I mean, Widdecombe will be the front pages tomorrow.
Yeah,
she's got to be.
Well, she should be. I mean, it obviously happened far too late for us to make it onto the front page this morning. But we're going to talk to Philip Kinsley now, because we're going to talk about the front pages, but also about Anne Widdecombe, because I think, Philip, you knew Anne quite well. Good morning to you.
Hi, Mike. Yeah, I did. I knew her. She was from Westminster and from the the commentary circuit. I got to know her a little bit. I spent a wonderful evening with her, dinner with her, after a CF Smith lecture, New Culture Forum Smith lecture, and indeed she did a comedy show for us.
Really?
Yeah. It didn't work. It was quite short lived, actually. With my wonderful colleague Emma Webb, who you know.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And she was just such a great sport, you know what I mean? And the thing about her was that, as people have said, she was just such a character. Yes, she was a classic high Tory philosophical conservative, but she was full of fun as well. You know, she was a reality TV star, and she was so dynamic and larger than life, but in real life she was this tiny little bird of a, so delicate, but she was so formidable as well. I mean, I remember walking with her and talking, and the first time I met her, and she was so sensitive to other people. She said, "Oh, I saw you interviewed on whatever it was. I think it was GB News, and you were talking about education. I agreed with everything you said, and all of that kind of thing." So immediately, you just feel this amazing warmth towards her, you know. And she'll be sorely missed. She was such a character. She reminded me a little bit of David Starkey, actually. That kind of larger than life character, and we won't see many more of them, Mike. You know, our society doesn't produce these kinds of people, and that's why we're in the dreadful state we're in. You know, she was a conviction politician. She was funny with it, and she founded. Do you remember the Greenham Common women? You know.
Yes.
Dirty, smelly, and knitting their own muesli and complaining about things. She founded the opposition to that. I think it was Women and Families for Defence.
Right.
You know, and it was total common sense, you know, against unilateral disarmament in the 80s. Are you kidding? Are you mad? You know, it was that kind of thing.
Right.
So she was just this very reassuring voice of common sense. She was the quirkiest person I've ever known. Seriously, she was the quirkiest person I've ever known. But as I say, she was a ferocious intellect, and I'll miss her.
And she also, unlike most people in this day and age, she didn't care what people thought of her. She didn't give a monkeys whether you agreed with her or not. She just always, and Lembit said this earlier, she never changed her view on a particular issue, because that was what she thought. And I remember I met her once in the Ealing studio. I don't know if you were ever there when I was at Talk, and they had this ridiculously expensive studio they built in Ealing, and she was sitting in the green room, and I said, "Oh, Anne," I said, "I was down in your neck of the woods recently, a place called Bovey Castle," and she went, "It's pronounced Bovey." And I was like, "Oh, sorry," and I was just like, "Oh Christ," you know, I managed to get it wrong. And I mean, at that point, I just thought, well, there's nowhere else to go now. You know, I didn't know what else to say. It was like, ooh. But yeah, she would have been, I think, this morning looking at the papers and looking at this story on the front page of the Times, which, as I've said many times before, is now the kind of the in-house newspaper for the Labour government. Metropolitan Police inquiry into £500,000 donations to reform. I mean, haven't the police got anything better to do? What the hell are they doing? You know, investigating money that was given to a political party by people who are perfectly entitled to give money to a political party.
It's just, they'll do anything. Well, you know, first of all, they tried to make out he was the biggest villain since Dick Turpin.
Right.
You know, and now they're trying to make out that he's the biggest swindler since God, you know, whoever.
I mean, he's got more than one house. Isn't it shocking? You know, let's, pillory him for having more than one house.
You know, meanwhile, the Labour government, you know what I mean? And it just feels as though it's the establishment out to get him at any cost. And you know, now we've got this Count Bin-faced nonsense that it transpires is a BBC comedy writer. You know, now there's an oxymoron if you ever heard. People laughed when I said I was going to be a comedy writer. They're not laughing now. You know,
that's the Bob Monkhouse line.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm doing my Burnham Manning routine here.
Yeah.
But it was actually funny. So, you know, but this is the establishment in fancy dress now out to get him. So when Farage said, you know, this is the people versus the establishment, and then it was this ridiculous figure, Count Binface, everybody laughed and thought he was a fool. Actually, it's not. He's right. It is. Very specifically and in an undiluted way, the people versus the establishment now. This is the BBC, this is the Blob, this is all of those things. You know, so it really does feel actually that this is important. Meanwhile, Russia, China, Iran are looking at us and thinking, could we possibly be that stupid? Is this what we're up against, you know? We've got people in the country wanting to just, you know, overthrow it and just make it into, you know, an Islamic state. And all of this is going on. People are laughing at this. It really isn't funny. You know, when looters come to your door and they want to take your belongings and your wife and your daughter, not necessarily in that order, because they think it's social justice, will you still be laughing at Count Binface then? This is serious stuff.
Yeah,
and
right.
we need to get, I think, whatever you think about Nigel Farage, it's not about Nigel Farage. This is about overturning the old order. And this is just at least making the first step into saving ourselves and having a future for ourselves.
Exactly right. And I'm literally the only person making the argument that this is a stitch-up. Nobody else is making that argument. Not one journalist, not one newspaper, not one television programme, not even Dan Wootton, because of course he hates Nigel Farage as well. But so in the end, what you've got is people just ganging up and saying, "Oh, we don't want this because it's weird." You know, I was talking to Lembit. You know, we've been playing a clip this morning. You know, what we have now in Britain is a bunch of marauding Moroccans who were out on the streets last night fighting the police because of a football match between France and Morocco that took place in the United States of America, and we're having to spend time stopping them from looting shops and beating up the cops. And meanwhile, the Times thinks it's a good idea to investigate reform.
And not for the first time. Let's remember that, was it Channel 4 sent this guy in to try to, during the general election, to try and get the reform people to say stupid things.
Yes.
And then he was exposed. That was never really properly investigated.
No, it wasn't. That was one of the first ones. That was one of the first. Well, it was quite high profile, but it wasn't properly investigated. You know, it was just let's forget it all and all the rest. I think the problem people have, well, first of all, the problem Nigel Farage has that other than reform voters and people who genuinely, desperately want change. Okay, he's not perfect, Nigel Farage, by any stretch of the imagination. I could criticise him till the cows come home, but he's probably the best of a bad bunch, and he's the best of what we've got. The problem is the left absolutely hate him because they can never forgive him for Brexit. The genuine far right, you know, the neo-Nazis and the people on the very, very far right of the spectrum, they hate him as well because he's not right-wing enough. The Tories, the centre-right, hate him. Everybody hates him. Everybody's out to get him. So that tells me he must be doing something right. He must be actually some kind of threat to the status quo. And people say, no, he isn't. He's contained. He's, opposition and all of that kind of thing. No, I don't think he is. Reform, as I say, aren't perfect, but they do have an eye on what's going on in the country. They do have a sense of where the British public are, and they are responding to that. Don't forget, they can't be too far right of that, or else that's just not going to work for them. On the other hand, they can't be too far left of that because that's not going to work for them forever. So anyway, so people do need to hold their feet to the fire, but they are probably the best of what we've got at the moment. And you know, we do have to, I think we do have to support Nigel, not because it's about Nigel, but because it's about our own survival.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, just on that principle of the Channel 4 guy trying to inveigle his way into the reform sort of office, if you like, there was another one yesterday discovered, Peter Walker, who happens to be one of the Guardian's fine reporters, was found hiding behind a curtain in a Reform Council meeting, where he was trying to sort of listen into some whatever they were talking about, and they found him and kicked him out. He won't be surprised to hear he's also a cyclist correspondent, I think, as well. He's one of their sort of, he doubles up as a cyclist and a political journalist. There you go, there he is. And he could be. He looks exactly like Binface, actually. We got Binface's picture as well, because after it came in yesterday. Yeah, they all look like Dan Hodges. You know, it's kind of a weird. This is a weird look that they've all got. Slightly wall-eyed characters.
You know what? I'm looking at that and I think I must shave this beard off. Actually,
you really should, because right-wingers should not have beards, because I'm afraid you might be mistaken for one of these wankers. You know. Alan Miller, yeah, but Alan Miller can have a beard because he's a hard man. He's fine. I'm not going to argue with him. Listen, Philip, we salute you and thank you very much for talking to us, and have a lovely weekend. Are you going to be watching the football on Saturday night? And if England lose, will you go and riot with the Moroccans?
I'll go berserk. I'll be running riot and I'll be powered by best bitter, and here's hoping they win.
Excellent. Good stuff. Well, don't stay away from the craft beer, because that's the sort of led by Donkeys Brigade. It doesn't go anywhere good. Thank you very much.
It'll be old school beer. Old school best bitter. I mean,
brilliant. Top man. Philip Kinsley there. Brilliant. Good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Now, time to speak to another man who has got his finger on the pulse of the population in this country. And it is, of course, the one and only Alan Miller who joins us. Alan, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike. Good to see you.
Good to see you. And I know you've already made a lovely tribute to Anne Widdecombe. We're all a bit shocked today, so we're still covering all the stories that we want to cover, obviously, because Anne would want us to do that. But she was a massive part of this show. We signed her up very early on, and she was one of the people that was one of the first to say, we're very, very, very happy to support you in your new venture. And as I said, we've just hit 30 million views this morning, so we're pretty pleased with ourselves. And Anne would always say, don't worry about me, just get on with the bleeding show. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's the remarkable thing about Anne Widdecombe, someone who's a straight-talking lover of Britain and lover of the people, someone that could be enthusiastic and passionate and courageous, because it takes a lot to split with people that have been fellow travellers, as she did with the Conservative Party when she thought they had got it wrong, and stand for something that you believe in, and actually continue to be enthusiastic, to be civil. And being civil doesn't mean being polite. It actually means taking one another seriously as citizens, robustly engaging, criticising. It can mean ridiculing, but it's a commitment to the belief in the most important part of democracy. And I'm in the heartland, the birthplace of democracy at the moment in Greece. I'm in Ikaria, very luckily. But the demos kreisia, people power, and the belief in people making a decision around sovereignty and democracy, and the most important decision in the last 3 decades, and how Anne Widdecombe really went out to bat to say that the British public should make a decision and that she would put herself on the line and commit to that, alongside a jovial, very British sense of humour and can-do spirit. And she'll be much missed. But I will always be inspired by those people that we sadly have lost, but that they remain with us in their spirit and their commitment and what their achievements are and what they've done. And we have a duty, I believe, to carry on with that, and also to try and emulate. It's difficult at times when things become very noisy, but to emulate that sense of British humour, but with a robust critique and a civil disposition and a belief in the demos.
Yes, and you do that very well, Alan, if pardon me for saying so, because, one of the things that you've always been very strong on is just continuing with what you believe in, making sure that more people know about it than you can shake a stick at. And Anne was very like that. She didn't care what people thought of her. She didn't mind if you didn't agree with her, but she was like, this is what I think. and this is what we should do, and this is how I see the world. And I think the more people like that, and you're one of them, I'm glad to say, the better, really, for all of us.
Well, thank you, Mike. That's very kind. I mean, I think that it's a belief and a commitment that goes beyond an individual, though individuals are really paramount within all of this, because everyone can give a lead, and we try and encourage everyone to give a lead. But it's a belief in the fundamental foundations of our civilization, actually, of democracy, of privacy, of autonomy, of liberty, of the things that are so important, and that we have a duty and a commitment to uphold them and defend them and encourage others to do it. And when we argue and disagree, it's not just with the people that we're doing it with, but it's because there's an audience, and that we believe that the public, that adults, should not be infantilized, should not be censored. And as Anne Widdecombe said, there is no right not to be offended. Right? Yeah. Things can be really brutal. I don't like some of the things, none of us do, we see and hear. But the alternative to clamping down on all of that will be a censorious North Korea style, diminished, impoverished society. Now, we see that our government is trying to do those things in many areas. It's trying to do it with a social media ban. Andy Burnham's team have said they're considering now restricting and banning VPNs. You can't make it up, putting us alongside China and Russia and other places like North Korea and elsewhere. And you just think to yourself, what we have got right now is a question about what we want this country to look like. And I think the world is looking at us. And I don't want to sound too melodramatic, but when we started this during lockdowns, many people were outraged because they saw, a flagrant disregard for so much of parliamentary scrutiny, open discussion about costs and benefits, locking people up in houses, things that could never be imagined beforehand. And now we've got a situation where the ongoing assault on freedom of speech, on the idea that we're going to have to digitally identify to verify ourselves to protect the children, when we've already seen that the Online Safety Act that was designed allegedly to do that has become a census charter. Across the board, we're seeing these things alongside what I think is a very biased and partisan approach, right? We see big declarations when there's riots in Southampton and elsewhere. We had a riot yesterday out in Edgware Road. We won't be getting any declarations about that. We see a very different approach. We're seeing things like lawfare and what those implications might mean, that we've got a parliamentary committee that has 7 MPs, the majority of which have all come out and said things negative about Nigel Farage, about a number of areas, on Brexit, on Islamophobia, on being on TV News, a whole range of things like that. And we're expected to believe that these things are all being handled evenly, and that somehow it's just hateful people or the far right that have a problem with it. In actual fact, what's happening is there's a huge reckoning, a seismic reckoning that's happening in Britain. And in the spirit of Anne, but also many others, I think that those that believe in democracy, decency, privacy, but also our responsibility to one another, have got a duty now to step up. And we've got a message to Andy Burnham, which we've put out, to say that you should step away from this idea of banning or restricting VPNs and a social media ban. I put a post out, it's got nearly 3,000 reposts now, hundreds of thousands of views. The point is, I actually did some work a long time ago when I was in I'd set up the Nighttime Industry Association, and I worked in Manchester when he first came in, and we all stood on a stage and did a 1 minute applause for first responders. The police were there, ambulance people, lots of people, nurses and others, remarkable people, because of the Ariana Grande attack by the evil terrorists that hate us. And we were united. And at the point I was making the point, look, hospitality is not a pariah enemy. We're part of the fabric of the community. I'm making the point to Andy Burnham now. You should know who we are. We are as equally concerned about attacks on our freedom and terrible nihilist attacks as we are by those who are in charge of us, who want to shut down freedom, privacy and our rights. And we are going to be as robust in challenging them, and we're not going away. And his team and everyone, they know what we did before with hospitality together is 10 times at least stronger than any of that. And we are going to, this is the hill for us. So as he goes in there, he should lose Starmer's albatross of digital ID and the social media ban and VPNs. There are genuine concerns about what's going on the internet, but parental authority is essential. And we cannot infantilize the whole of the public and treat us all as though we're going to be on a digital, digital prison in order to implement it.
Mike, I saw Alan talk. Hi, Mike. Alan, it's Lambert here. I saw you talk. Lambert. Good to see you. I saw you at the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship conference, where you made many of these points, and others did too. I think you're on the money here, because that actual conference could be censored, because the amount of people pushing against this at the conference would make it uncomfortable viewing for the government. Like Sal Grover, who's been in this huge contest with the Australian government because she had the audacity to exclude men pretending to be women from women's-only groups. How close are we to that kind of censorship?
Well, I think we're already seeing it, aren't we? We've got attempts now. Well, we're seeing it happening in Europe now. There's going to be not just the Digital Services Act and Digital ID, but there's new chatbot legislation. There's areas about what they're going to do about comments. We've seen that the government is proposing that it's going to be pushing more mainstream BBC propaganda, essentially, onto big tech and restricting others potentially like this broadcast and platform and elsewhere. And we know that some speakers were banned from ARC, from coming into Britain, as they were from Unite the Kingdom. And look, I don't really care at one level what people's political views are. Of course I care, but I don't want to see the canary debanked. Even if they said Nigel Farage was making it up and there's no such thing as debanking, I do not want to see people that I have completely different views of shut down a shutter, because if they come for them, they'll come for all of us. And you're absolutely right. It's increasingly difficult to put events on. We've seen that nurses and others have been have been attacked at work in terms of lawfare again because of their views on single-sex spaces, and they've had to go to appeals in spite of the Supreme Court position. We've seen again and again a two-tier approach to a variety of areas. It's not just on the question of people's concerns about borders and migrants. It's also about sex-based rights, cancelling, talking about transphobia, Islamophobia. So we've all got phobias now in this anxious age of therapy. No, they're political ideas. We must debate them and thrash them out. That's the foundation since really the Renaissance and the Reformation and the Enlightenment, the ability to have conscience, the ability to thrash these things out. And, I find that, I came from a different place historically. I came from what people would have called the older left. But, I find it remarkable that people throw these terms around like far right and fascist people, our nation that fought fascists, our grandparents. And yet they want to shut down debate. They want to cancel elections. They want to dispense with juries. I mean, these are the things that actual fascists did and actual far right people did. But the British public is wise to it. They've had enough. We've had enough. And you see, no matter how much Andy Burnham tries to pretend he's king of the north and a man of the people, with a splattering of votes, it's remarkable. But the public are not going to go for it. And here's the other thing. I just want to say this, right? A lot of people are talking about Nigel Farage and donations and everything. I'm happy. I think we should all have a discussion about where money comes from. We should see what that's all about. But it's the same thing in this two-tier approach, right? It now appears, and it's an allegation, so he's entitled completely to being innocent until proven guilty and have due process. But that Kevin Hollinrake has been reported to the commissioner, allegedly for trying to lobby him about Nigel Farage. Now, it's all up there. I've got it in my post. It's on record. And I'm wondering why the press are not covering that as much. That's quite a serious allegation. He's the chairman of the
problem, Alan, is the press are completely and utterly captured as well by the establishment, and they will not cover. I mean, I'm literally the only person asking the question in the entire country in terms of the media as to why this is happening and why he's being singled out, why there is this two-tier approach, and why they're trying to basically cancel any opportunity that he has to get into power. But listen, we've got to run because we're running out of time. Alan, this is great to see you. Enjoy Greece. We'll see you at CPAC next week, right?
Scrap digital ID together. Yeah, and I'll see you at CPAC. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely right. Brilliant. Alan, thank you very much indeed. Just one more story for us, which you haven't mentioned. This is a piece, this is bizarrely from, remember Chris Whitty, who's still England's chief medical officer, bizarrely. You don't see him very much anymore, but he's still there, still wearing the same ill-fitting shirts that he used to wear. He's apparently decided now that working from home could actually shorten your life.
Well, he said the opposite.
He's the guy that told everybody to work from home.
3 frigging years he told us not to leave.
He's now said, apparently there's now evidence that sedentary habits could have a lethal impact.
Well, thanks, mate.
Really?
You know, it's your fault, Whitty. You told us to stay at home. Of course, his pals all ignored it, including the Prime Minister at the time. But there we go. That's just ridiculous.
I know.
It's just like the whole thing. Health becomes a fashion.
Yes.
That's all it is.
I know. Absolutely madness. I know you've got to go, finally. Thank you for staying with us.
I wanted to finish with 3 quotes from Anne Widdecombe.
Okay,
one is, I stay on terra firma. The more firm, the less terror. Second one, and I agree with this, and it's very relevant to the headlines. Anne Widdecombe said, the abuse of children is the worst offence that anybody can commit. As a parent, I agree. But perhaps the best one of all was this one. I cannot bear the language of TV chefs use. They don't seem able to look at a plate of vegetables without accusing it of sexual activity. May she rest in peace. And
May she rest in peace. And
is
God
heaven's
love
game.
her. Yeah, absolutely right. And we'll continue with our appreciation of Anne Widdecombe. And thank you so much for all your messages. Substack is going nuts with messages for her as well. So thank you to all of you for sending those in. Sorry to hear about Anne. Glad I got to meet her when she was supporting Ben Habib to be an MP, says one. Anne's passing is a blow to us all, says Base. Yep, it really is. So sad to hear about the voice of reason and common sense. Anne Widdecombe, she always had a sense of honesty and compassion and loyalty to the country and the people. She was a very funny woman as well. Very sad we're not going to see Anne chat with you again. She kept you in order. You were always careful not to swear, says Mary. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I was absolutely terrified of her, quite rightly. Anne's little cat had such a great name and always made an appearance on camera. I hope he has someone to look after him now. His name escapes me, but it's so cute. God rest Anne's soul. Was it not Winston or something like that?
Something Elias or something, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was kind of an ancient Greek name, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, we'll figure it out by then.
Well, I'm sure somebody will remember what the
A
cat's
quote
name
about
was.
the cat. My cat did that the other day when he came in from the garden.
Yeah.
One can only imagine what it may have been.
Whatever it was, yes. Well, she did tell us what the cat's name was, and we'll see if we can remember. We've got David Vance, I think, to talk to next, who's with us. David, good to see you. Sorry to keep you waiting. A very good morning to you. Is he frozen? Well, why don't we do some news, shall we?
Hello, I'm Fiona MacLeod with your Friday instalment. Marvellous start to the day, Britain. The heatwave's still roasting us like a dodgy barbecue, but the real sizzle is in Labour HQ. Andy Burnham's victory lap to number 10 is basically a done deal. 322 MPs have crowned him the next PM in the world's fastest, least competitive leadership contest. Keir who? Fresh off the coronation, Burnham's already dodging his first mutiny. Nearly 80 Labour backbenchers are whinging about his Home Secretary's immigration plans and demanding a U-turn. Meanwhile, he's signalling a tougher line on Israel over Gaza because Britain was too slow. Brilliant. New boss, same chaotic energy, just with better regional accents. Past the factor 50 and the popcorn see ya later alligator.
Fiona, thank you very much indeed. David Vance is here, I think. Is he not?
No.
Oh, he hasn't come back. Oh, should we do a meltdown then?
Yes.
Let's do a little meltdown, shall we? And notwithstanding the sad news about Anne Widdecombe, I'm not going to do my meltdown about her. What I am going to do is a meltdown about the future Prime Minister of this country, who is one Andy Burnham. And one of the reasons I'm not happy about the fact that he's about to become the Prime Minister is that he hasn't actually done any of the things that most people who want to be Prime Minister have done, i.e., he did not stand in a general election as the leader of the Labour Party. In fact, he didn't stand in the general election at all. He was not an MP when this particular government took over from the Tories after 14 years of what you might describe as complete and utter mayhem and hopelessness, right? We got Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer was absolutely dreadful. The worst Prime Minister this country has ever seen, the worst Prime Minister this country has ever had. No doubt you will find plenty of people in the Labour government who will say, but he did so many great things. Look at what he achieved. He says himself that he's leaving Britain in a better state than it was in when he took it over. All of which is complete and utter nonsense, by the way. But have a look at this. If you wanted to see somebody smug, somebody self-satisfied, somebody self-aggrandizing, somebody who really, really thinks of themselves as a brilliant individual, look no further than Andy Burnham filming himself yesterday.
Strange thing to say, but I've just been in to nominate myself to be leader of the Labour Party. The nomination process has opened this morning, so glad to see some MPs going in. I'm still the only candidate in the race. We'll get the first indication about 7 p.m. tonight of the first number of MPs to sign up. But the thing will go on over the next few days, so it won't be the final word. But yeah, it's all starting to feel very real. Strange thing to say, but I've just been in to nominate myself to be leader of the Labour Party. The nomination process has opened this morning.
Yeah, I can't watch that twice. It's just unbelievable. You know, it sums up the state of our nation, does it not? When you have a man who wants to be Prime Minister so badly that he's willing to persuade a sitting Labour MP by the name of Josh Simons to move out of the way so that he can go in and have a by-election which he can win massively with a big majority because they managed to get loads of people out to vote who previously wouldn't have voted. And suddenly now he's right in line to take over. Josh Simons, of course, has been promised a nice, steady job in the new administration, probably running something which won't be very nice. But here we are. This is where we have come to, that we've now got somebody in charge of Britain who we know nothing about, other than the fact that if he was chocolate, he would eat himself. He's absolutely smug, ghastly, awful, and I don't think he's going to be very good for any of us. And I think after about the first month of him being in charge, we'll all be going, can we have Starmer back? Because even though we hated him, at least we knew what he was about. At least he wasn't underhand, he wasn't smarmy, he wasn't deceitful, he wasn't pretending to be something he wasn't. We could see what he was. He was a robot. He was a man with no empathy, a man with literally nothing going for him, a man who didn't know how to talk to other men or women or children. He was the most awkward individual I think we've ever seen. But now we're stuck with Mr. Smarmy, Andy Burnham, who's actually voted for himself and then boasted about it. I voted for myself. There's a contest. No, there isn't. You can't have a contest against nobody, can you? And of course, everyone's making fun of Nigel Farage because he's going to end up having to run against John, what's his name? Harvey. I'm not calling him Binface because I think that gives him too much credence. Yeah. There he is. Look at that face. Look at that face. That's what he looks like, the bloke underneath the bin. What an absolute and utter middle-class Oxford graduate tosser. Because that's what he is as well. Andy Burnham's going to be a disaster, mark my words. It's just a matter of time. But the honeymoon period will be over very soon. Sooner rather than later. That's my meltdown for today.
To get an A, I didn't realise it was A3.
Pooch has done a great. Well, we could still put it up behind me, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Pooch has done a lovely tribute to Anne Widdecombe.
We got a photo that we'll get framed.
That's so nice. Thank you.
We'll get that framed.
Here it is. We'll get it framed. It will go up on the wall because.
Everyone's remembered the cat's name as well.
Aloysius.
Aloysius. Oh, of course, yeah, because there's a bit of a Catholic thing going on, isn't there? There she is. Oh, thank you for that. That's really nice. We're going to put that on the wall behind us. Well played. Very nice. Nice one here from Watson. Mike, you're truly a master of broadcasting, handling the sadness so gracefully, and I'm certain Anne must be very pleased. Do you know, I hope she would be, because there's nothing worse than the ire of Anne Widdecombe. No. And I didn't like getting it when she was alive. I certainly don't want to get it now that she's not. Huge respect and love for Anne. R.I.P. Wonderful soul, says Sunshine Hawk. Yeah, she really was a remarkable woman. And like I say, we feel very close to her from here in our studio at the Mike Graham Show, because she just was such a great supporter of ours and a great supporter of freedom of speech. My young son and I saw Anne on a City show as a visiting grandiose mayor who rode a ghost train. Goes to show she wasn't made of stone. R.I.P. Anne, says the Voice for England. Brilliant stuff. Keep those messages coming and we will pass them on continually. And I'll write, I think, a piece about my Substack this afternoon about Anne and appreciation of her, because she was a remarkable woman, and the world is a much less inviting and entertaining place without her, has to be said. But now it's time to speak to our favourite bishop, who messaged us in earlier when he was listening, when we were talking about beards, to say he's not shaving his beard off. And I can happily say to you that he has a very fine beard, and you would never be mistaken for one of these soy boys, Bish. You just wouldn't. But that guy's face, this Captain Bin face, whatever his name is, Count Bin face. What a complete, he is the establishment. That's the establishment we're now facing, isn't it? That's what we're fighting in this country. These kind of lefty ex-BBC so-called comedy writers who think that anyone who wants to be different, like Nigel Farage, who wants to try and change the country, as you and I do, we're somehow the bad guys.
We are, but having seen what he looks like, I remember the immortal words of the late Bob Monkhouse, that now I would very much like to clap my hands and stamp my feet all over his face.
The other great Monkhouse quote was, when I said I was going to be a comedian, nobody believed me. Well, they're not laughing now.
I remember, for my sins, I remember many years ago being at a comedy club where Monkhouse was performing.
Yeah.
And he saw a young lady sitting on the front row who became the target of his wit when he explained, "This act is far too rude for you. Get thee to a nunnery, or better still, come backstage to an old monkhouse."
Excellent.
So,
very good.
But there we go.
Yeah.
Well,
Anne Widdecombe, a few words perhaps about her and her amazing legacy, really.
I most certainly will. I was going to say, before I speak this morning about hope, about righteousness, and about the soul of our nation, I couldn't possibly begin without acknowledging the deeply sad news that we have lost Anne Widdecombe. Anne was, of course, a longtime friend of this program and of yours, Mike, and to so many of us. A familiar voice to so many who are listening to this show today and over the years. And she was a woman whose passing leaves British public life much poorer. Much will be said about her in the coming days, of the politician, the parliamentarian, the minister, about her as a campaigner, about that unmistakable voice of hers, that formidable mind, that wonderfully sharp wit, and that extraordinary ability to say precisely what she believed, whether anyone in the room agreed with her or not. And rightly so, because Anne belonged to an increasingly rare tradition in British politics. She believed that conviction mattered. She understood that public service was supposed to be precisely that, service. She possessed something that cannot be manufactured by advisors, by focus groups, by opinion polls, or political strategists. She possessed moral courage. You always knew where you stood with Anne, undoubtedly. And whether you agreed with her on every question or not, you knew that the woman standing before you believed exactly what she was saying. There was absolutely no mask, no carefully manufactured political persona, no desperate attempt to discover which way the wind was blowing before deciding where to stand. Anne stood where conscience always told her to stand. And unlike many, she stayed there. Like you, Mike, I had the privilege of knowing Anne, if only briefly myself. And I shall remember her with tremendous affection, because behind the formidable public figure was a woman of warmth, humor, generosity, and a deeply, deeply held Christian conviction. There are some people whose public reputation grows larger than the person themselves. But with Anne, I think the opposite was true. The more you encountered the person behind the public figure, the more you appreciated the depth of character that laid beneath it. She was genuinely conservative, not merely as a party label and not because it was politically convenient, but because she believed there were things worth conserving. Faith was one of them. Duty, country, responsibility, the dignity of human life, the importance of conscience, and above that, the conviction that freedom carries obligations as well as rights. Today, Great Britain has lost one of its great characters. British politics has lost one of its clearest voices. This show and all of us have lost a dear friend. And many across this nation will feel today that they have lost someone who, through decades of public life, became strangely familiar to us all. But Anne was also a woman of Christian faith. And so, while today there is sadness, we do not grieve without hope. The Christian faith does not pretend that death is painless. It does not ask us to deny the sorrow of separation. It simply declares that death does not have the final word. That beyond the noise of Parliament, beyond the television studios, beyond the arguments and campaigns, beyond all the honors and achievements of this passing world, there stands the judgment, the mercy, and the everlasting love of Almighty God. And so today we commend Anne into the hands of the God she sought to serve. We give thanks for her life, for her courage, for her humor, for her friendship, and for her faith, for her service to our country, and for the example of a woman who understood that conviction is worthless unless one possesses the courage to stand by it. So may her family, her friends, her colleagues, and all of those of us who loved her and knew her know the comfort of Almighty God in the days ahead. And may we honor her memory, not merely with words, but by recovering something of that courage which she demonstrated throughout her life. The courage to believe, the courage to speak, the courage to stand, the courage to serve, and the courage to remain faithful. Eternal rest grant unto her, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon her. May she rest in peace and rise in his glory.
That's lovely. Should we play the? Should we play that marching band? Because I think she'd enjoy that. Do you know, I wasn't thinking about her last night, but I had the pleasure of watching that last night and thinking to myself, you know, isn't Britain actually great? There's so much that's great about it. You've got me going, I'm afraid. So should we let you just pass on into your sermon, because I'm sure I'll recover by the time you finish that.
Certainly. My brothers and sisters, the Bible says righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. The psalmist declares, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, the people he has chosen as his own inheritance. There are moments when a nation needs political analysis. There are moments when a nation needs economic answers. There are moments when a nation needs better laws, stronger institutions, wiser leaders, and greater courage. There are also moments when a nation needs to remember its soul. I believe we are living through such a moment. We speak constantly about what is wrong with our country. We speak about division. We speak about fear. We speak about the cost of living, the breakdown of trust, the loss of community, the weakness of our institutions, the anger of our people, and the uncertainty of our future. But perhaps beneath all these crises lies a deeper question. What kind of nation do we actually want to become? Because nations do not rise merely because they are wealthy. Nations do not endure merely because they are powerful. Nations do not become great merely because they have armies, parliaments, banks, universities, or institutions. Scripture gives us a far deeper principle. Righteousness exalts a nation. Not wealth, not military strength, not political ideology, not technological advancement, righteousness. That means there is a moral architecture to our national life. Truth matters, justice matters, courage matters, faithfulness matters. The way we treat the weak in society matters. The way we raise our children matters. The way we honor marriage and family, that matters. The way we speak of one another matters. Above all, the way we use power matters. The way we respond to other people's suffering, they all matter. Where the place that we give to God in our society, that matters most. Because a nation can become materially rich and spiritually bankrupt. It can become technologically advanced and morally confused. It can become powerful in the eyes of the world while becoming desperately poor in the things that actually make life worth living. But hear me today, my brothers and sisters. Despair is not our inheritance. We are not condemned to permanent decline as many would have us believe. We are not prisoners of the mistakes of the past. We are not powerless before the challenges of the present, and we are not required to surrender the future. The God who has revived nations before can revive them again. The God who has awakened sleeping churches before can awaken them again. The God who has restored broken families, transformed communities, forgiven sinners, raised leaders, and turned the hearts of generations, he can and he will do it again. But renewal begins when somebody decides to stand, when somebody decides to pray, when somebody decides to tell the truth, when somebody decides to forgive, when somebody dares to raise their children differently to the world, when somebody decides to open the Bible again, when somebody decides to return to church, when somebody decides that cynicism will not have the final word, that darkness will not extinguish the light. Perhaps today that somebody is you. Never underestimate the power of one faithful life. A nation is not an abstraction. A nation is millions of kitchens and classrooms, millions of homes and workplaces, millions of conversations and decisions, millions of ordinary people deciding every day whether they will live by courage or cowardice, truth or deception, selfishness or sacrifice, hope or despair. My brothers, my sisters, you may never stand in Parliament. You may never speak from a television studio. You may never hold public office, but you can rebuild the peace of Britain God has placed within your reach. You can strengthen your family. You can serve your neighbor. You can protect the vulnerable. You can encourage the weary. You can refuse to participate in hatred. And you can pray for those who govern us. You can speak truth without surrendering compassion. You can become a person of such integrity that your children know what goodness looks like because they saw it in you. And if enough people do that, our culture changes. If enough families do that, communities change. If enough churches do that, cities change. And if enough of us citizens do it, this nation changes. The psalmist said, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord." That's not merely a slogan from history. It is an invitation for the future. Britain does not need to be less compassionate. we need deeper compassion. Britain should not be subjected to less freedom, but we need freedom anchored in responsibility. Britain does not need more diversity thrust upon us. We need a common moral vision strong enough to hold a people together. I believe that vision is found again in the God who taught us that every human being created bears his image, in the Christ who taught us to love our neighbors, in the cross which teaches us that sacrifice is stronger than selfishness, in the resurrection which declares that even the grave does not get the final word. That is why Christians must never become merchants of despair. We may warn, we may challenge, we may rebuke, we may often speak uncomfortable truths, but we must never preach as though darkness has already won. Because the Christians of the United Kingdom, we are a resurrection people. We know that the stones can be rolled away. We know that dry bones can live again. We know that prodigals can come home. We know that broken hearts can be restored. We know that frightened disciples can become courageous apostles. And we know that nations can rediscover their souls. So, my brothers, my sisters, today I urge you and I implore you, lift up your heads. You are not finished. You are not forgotten. You are not beyond redemption. There is still breath in the lungs of people all over this nation. There is still courage in the hearts of these same people. There are still mothers praying beside the beds of their children, still fathers determined to build a better inheritance, still pastors preaching the gospel, still churches that are opening their doors, and there are still neighbors caring for neighbors. There are still men and women who will not bow to despair, will not surrender to cynicism, and will not accept that decline is inevitable. And perhaps the greatest lie being whispered over Britain today is that nothing can change, that the institutions are too broken, that division's too deep, the darkness too great. But this morning I have come to tell you this: darkness has never defeated light. Lies have never conquered truth forever. No winter has ever prevented the coming of spring, and no grave has ever been able to hold the risen Christ. So, my brothers, my sisters, do not let anyone tell you that our Great Britain cannot rise again. Do not tell me our children must inherit a weaker nation than the one that we received. Do not tell me faith must despair, courage must retreat, churches must close, families must crumble, and hope must die, because I refuse to believe it. Because I believe in the God who raises dry bones, the God who opens prison doors, the God who brings prodigals home, the God who turns fishermen into apostles, persecutors into preachers, and frightened people into fearless witnesses. And that God is not dead. The gospel has not lost its power. The cross still stands. The tomb is still empty. And Christ is still Lord. So Britain, rise again. Rise from cynicism. Rise from apathy. Rise from fear. Rise from the comfortable lie that somebody else will rebuild what we have allowed to fall. My brothers, my sisters, open the Bible again. Teach your children again. Pray around your tables again. Fill the churches again. Serve your neighbors again. Honor what is good. Defend what is true. Protect what is innocent. Forgive where hatred has taken root. And believe that your life, your family, your faithfulness, and your courage can and will still make a difference. Because nations are not saved by spectators. They are renewed by people who stand, people who pray, people who sacrifice, people who refuse to surrender the future. And if you ask me today whether there is still hope for Britain, look at the cross. If you ask me whether broken things can live again, look at the empty tomb. If you ask me whether one generation can change the destiny of a nation, open the Bible. And if you ask me who must begin the rebuilding, look in your mirror. This is our country. This is our generation. This is our watch. And we will not surrender it to darkness. We will not hand our children to a nation without memory, a civilization without courage, or a future without God. So all across this land, let the bells ring again. Let the churches fill. Let fathers lead. Let mothers pray. Let children hear the name of Jesus the Christ once more. Let truth be spoken unashamedly. Let courage become contagious all across this land. And let hope rise from Land's End to John O'Groats, from the valleys of Wales to the streets of Belfast, until a nation that had almost forgotten who she was remembers once again the God who has never forgotten her. For righteousness exalts a nation. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. And Britain, our light has not gone out. Our future has not yet been written. And our story is far from over. Amen.
Absolutely brilliant. Kai, we've got to run, but thank you so much for that, for both of those incredible eulogies, especially the one to Anne Widdecombe, because she would have loved that, I think. And everybody has absolutely been in tears. Thank you so much. Have a lovely weekend. Have a lovely weekend. Thank you. What an inspiration, as somebody just said there, Bishop Kai Dewar is, and what another great addition to this show and this family. Coming up at 10 o'clock, Layla Cunningham is in the house. She's going to be doing a show for 2 hours with you, looking ahead to the weekend, looking ahead to the next week in politics, which is going to be pretty exciting and very, very important, I think, for all of us. And let's face it, Mark Littlewood, who's going to join us shortly for Plank of the Week, which we're going to do in a minute, is also going to be doing his show, of course, the World Cupper, ahead of the England game tomorrow night. I often post that this is the best show we've had. However, today's show takes it up to another level. Well done. All, yeah, absolutely amazing. I think the final word goes to Anne Widdecombe, Charlotte, don't you think?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Now, only two sorts of people oppose free speech, and they are at opposite ends of the scale: snowflakes and totalitarians. I am offended, upset, insulted at least 30 times a day. Tough. It is not necessary to flash your knickers to do a decent ballroom dance. Free speech is for all, not for the privileged few. Nobody has the right to live their lives being protected from offence or from insult or from hurt feelings. And if you really can't take it, become a hermit.
Yeah. Get that for a few minutes. 30 seconds.
Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with your host and show creator, Mike Graham.
Welcome back to Plank of the Week. This is a new thing we're doing. I know that some of you last week were not that happy that we were shortening it to half an hour, but we've decided at the moment this is what we're going to do. We're going to get right stuck into it. I know that Anne Widdecombe would very much approve of a shorter version of everything. Because that's the way she was, that's how she rolled. I'm delighted to say that we got Paul Cox and we got Mark Littlewood joining us, fresh from, in either case, the travails of the week. Mark, you've come back from Mallorca for the England game tonight, or tomorrow night rather, I should say. Paul, you've just been on your travels generally. I've spotted you. You've been everywhere. Everywhere I look, there's Paul Cox popping up, doing something funny, and you know. At least you're a proper comedian, unlike that idiot who I'm not going to refer to as Bin Face, because I prefer to call him by his real name, which is John Harvey. You know, the sort of have I got news for you writer who's not very funny at all. He's just part of the media establishment, isn't he?
Yeah, he has literally been manufactured by the establishment. You know, he's gone to Oxford.
Yeah.
He's got the right credentials. His family went to the right school. He's now come out the other end and he's saying the right views, and we're all going to laugh at him like the regime would like us to.
Yes, exactly right. Yes, because after all, he's so edgy, isn't he? Now, the slightly faster version of Plank of the Week rolls around us, not pondering around too much. So, Mark, I'm going to come to you first. Because it's a World Cup weekend, you know, we saw last night the French beating Morocco. And, of course, what would you want to see after that? But a lot of Moroccan hooligans out on the streets of London, you know, trying to ransack shops and attack women and, you know, attack the police and all that. But you've got a bit of a Jordan Henderson a moment for us, I think, haven't you?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's difficult to know whether to laugh or cry about the Jordan Henderson thing, isn't it? For those who don't know what happened, Henderson has not didn't feature at all in the Mexico game, other than being sent off. And here is a heat map of his contribution to the England game.
Brilliant.
For those of you who are not, those of your viewers, Mike, who are not well into football, for each player you get a heat map which shows where were they on the pitch throughout the match. You know, how many times did they touch the ball in the opposition's penalty area and all the rest of it. Jordan Henderson, as you can see there, his heat map is entirely him lying behind the goal because he joined in the celebrations. He had a little bit of part to play in the match, despite the fact he didn't come on the pitch at any stage as a player. He was booked in that game.
Yeah, how did that happen?
Quite often it happens to people on the bench, Mike, if they're hurling abuse at the fourth official or the linesman or the referee. So it was something untoward, he said. He joined in all the celebrations of singing Wonderwall with the fans, but then showing that he's probably not at peak fitness, he failed to hurdle the advertising hoarding as he was attempting to return to the pitch, fell over and very sadly, ouch, broke his wrist. So he's out for the tournament. Not that he would have played a particularly big part in it. But look, you know, it's sad when footballers get injured, obviously, but try and make sure you're picking up injuries by, you know, putting in a flying tackle or something, right? Or stretching your legs to breaking point as you burst for a ball. Not being able to clear an advertising hoarding, that's quite planky, isn't it, Mike?
It
so I
really
hope he
is.
makes a full recovery, and it looked really grim if you see.
Oh God,
what
yeah!
actually happened.
Watching it in slow motion was absolutely horrendous. But I mean, I'm like you. I came in on Monday morning and thought, what a complete and utter idiot. And I was sort of upbraided by Emma Wolf, who said, well, it's not that funny. Well, I said, well, actually, I think it is quite funny. And then I saw Roy Keane describing Jordan Henderson as more or less completely useless. He said, I don't even know why he's there. Why have they brought him? You know, does he tell good stories after the dinner that they have or something like that? You know, but
well, Mike, you're joking. You're joking there, but I think that is almost exactly why they've brought him. He was never going to play on the pitch, I think. He's nowhere near good enough unless we picked up a string of injuries to play in England's centre midfield. So I think he is brought there to have a bit of a laugh. So if that was his intention, I guess let's have a bit of a laugh at his expense, right?
Well, I'm going to add in as a sort of a conglomeration plank on Jordan Henderson, Gianni Infantino, who, of course, is now facing all sorts of corruption charges and investigations because he took a phone call from Donald Trump and basically decided to do away with the red card that had been given to Folarin Balogun, an American player, USA player, so that he could play in the match against. Was it Belgium? No.
Belgium.
It was Belgium, wasn't it? Who won 4-1. And so despite the fact that their best player was back in the team, and despite the fact that Donald Trump apparently admitted he didn't know what a red card was, Infantino went ahead and just did what he wanted. And the whole thing is just a joke, isn't it? And Infantino probably is certainly a deputy plank to Jordan Henderson. But Paul, you've also got something good for us. Lucy Powell, who is, of course, the current... is she deputy leader of the Labour Party now?
Yeah, because she's been voted in by the party, by the unions and the membership, etc.
Right.
They have this really strange sort of communistic way of appointing their leaders. and then we shall obey everything they say after that.
Right.
And Lucy Powell has decided that the PERDA, or the restrictions on talking about by-elections, which, by the way, we have one every 2 weeks now. So they are basically, we can't do news now. We just got to talk about everything that's not in the news. She has decided that the ban on talking about by-elections should not just apply to television and radio, it should also apply to social media as well. So that she is trying to create, literally, the reason I stumble over my words here is because I'm trying to make sure I don't swear, because I've always found a pretty suspicious character, Lucy Powell. She's certainly not from the politics that I enjoy, and she emblemizes the politics that I really don't enjoy at all. And to come out and say that we need to restrict all free speech during a by-election, particularly, let's face it, the next one's likely to be between Count Binface and Nigel Farage.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to talk about for 4, 5, 6 weeks? I think is outrageous. And I think it's also slightly sinister as well. We get to the point now where Labour realise that they're only in power now for maybe another 3 to 4 years. And as a result, they need to clamp down on absolutely everything as soon as possible to make sure that when they're out of power, we can't talk about them whatsoever.
Yes.
So Lucy Powell is an absolute plank. Because, what's the point of social media? It's the market square. We should just be able to sit in there and shout any old nonsense we like.
Of course.
If people shout about, shut up, you idiot, then that's fair enough too. But you should be able to have any discourse you wish, Mike.
Yes. Well, I mean, I wish we could shut her up, because every time she speaks, she makes absolutely no sense at all. I think we've got a little clip for you.
We saw Lisa Nandy say this week on X that she's going to come off X this week because she thinks it's become a far-right misinformation network under Elon Musk. I know you've got some proposals and ideas about how social media needs to change as well, but just on that, we saw Lisa Nandy say this week on X that she's going to come off X this week because she thinks it's become...
We'll have to nominate Charlotte for Plank of the Week, I think. She managed to make the clip play. But that's fine. But basically, I mean, they've now discovered that Lucy Powell's a woman as well, which is apparently Andy Burnham, and she's from North. So there's a pretty good chance that she's going to become the new Deputy Prime Minister, apparently, we're told, because, of course, Labour for a long time didn't know what a woman was. Now they've found one. They don't want to put them in charge completely, but they just sort of give them like the second-in-command type position to see how that all goes. Is that going to be the case for all of the clips?
One thing.
She's going to try one more thing.
Mike, I had a question for Paul, if that's all right.
Yeah,
because,
go on.
Paul, you must be able to... What does it mean to ban all talk of by-elections on social media? Look, I can get it's madness, but I can get that you can stop Ofcom regulated TV stations, right? Because you can threaten to close them down. But what penalty would be imposed on Mike if he wants to talk about Count Binface and Nigel Farage on his show? And what about on, say, X? Supposing you're just a rank and file activist and you take a picture of yourself out campaigning and leafleting in sunny Clacton, enjoying an ice cream on the pier, and you say, here I am, I'm out campaigning for Nigel Farage with a few other friends. You post that on X. What happens? Does Lucy Powell have you arrested and thrown in prison? I don't understand the rule, mate.
So she has recommended 2 things. Thrown in prison for a minimum of 7 years. Tickled 20 minutes non-stop.
Right.
And
by David Lammy.
By David Lammy. 3rd, instant death.
Okay.
So you will just someone will get out of a black car in a black suit, and you will be executed on the spot. That's the one Lucy's really standing behind, but she's struggling to get it past.
So she's keeping her options open and presumably putting that out to consultation, right? That's how they usually do these things, isn't it?
No, there'll be no consultation. You don't understand, Mark. The rules shall be followed.
Yeah. She's sort of she's like the ultimate headmistress turned Bond villain, isn't she? She's got a sort of Shark Tank over there if you don't pass the exam. Thank you very much indeed. Are we going to have another go? Shall we try it? Let's have a look.
We saw Lisa Nandy say this week on X that she's going to come off X this week because she thinks it's become a far-right misinformation network under Elon Musk. I know you've got some proposals and ideas about how social media needs to change as well, but just on that, on X, do you think there's a government, do you think that there is a case that the wider government should do the same and withdraw?
Well, look, they're decisions for Lisa and her department, and I think, look, these are trade-offs, aren't they? You know, it's a place that people do go to hear about what you're doing or to get news. So, do you want to remain on that platform? But it is also, you know, a platform that increasingly I find to be quite a toxic and difficult environment. But look, more importantly, we absolutely need to strengthen regulation in the social media space. I've got some proposals for doing that, especially when it comes to election time, where as a broadcaster, Lewis, how much you are restricted and regulated during election periods, who you can have on your show, how you have to be impartial, how you have to share information and facts about different people standing for election and so on. And now the social media space, which is where most people get their news and information and are influenced from, is out with that completely. And I think it's not beyond the wit of man. We've got an elections bill going through the House of Commons at the moment to strengthen that bill so that social media comes under some of the same requirements during an election period as our broadcasters do.
Yeah, brilliant. Mad. I know, it's completely mad, but we can't waste any more time talking about Lucy Powell. I mean, isn't it great, though, because they actually think that if they ban everybody from talking about them on social media, no one will know how crap they are at actually running the country. No one will figure it out. I'm going to go with the Prime Minister, for what it's worth, and I don't mean Andy Burnham, I mean Keir Starmer, who apparently still thinks he's Prime Minister. He turned up in an England shirt over in Ankara, and the only reason I wanted to mention him as Plank of the Week is because I wanted to sing the song Keir Starmer's in Ankara, which actually has a really nice ring to it, and we just kept singing it all week because we can, and now he's coming back from Ankara. Ankara seems the perfect place for him to spend a lot of time, doesn't it?
Damn right, damn right. I've heard various variations of that song, Mike. I like the Mike Graham remix version. I'm still quite a fan of the original that I hear a lot at the darts and the football, but good remix. You can always do a cover version of a popular song. I think you've pulled that off brilliantly. You do know that if England get to the World Cup final, it's likely to delay the handover of power.
We saw Lisa and Andy say this week.
It's likely to delay the handover of power because if we get to the final, Starmer wants to go, apparently. And that could well mean that Andy Burnham becomes Prime Minister later.
Well, also, because he also uttered the immortal words, Paul, didn't he, this week, that, when he was talking to the Norwegian Prime Minister, well, of course, the last time England won the World Cup, the Labour was in power. So it'd be insufferable if they win it on his final day in power, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah. It would, almost to the point, not quite to the point, but almost to the point that I'm not sure I want us to win.
I don't. I'm with you.
Yeah, it's getting to the point now where, do you know what? Mark and I will talk about this game on UK Live Online after the game on Monday. On Monday. And if we have lost, Mark and I, that will at least have a moment where we can say to ourselves, at least Labour cannot claim victory for any win at the World Cup for England. I really just don't know what he's going to do with himself. I mean, you can't be that level of a plank without the job of Prime Minister. You can't wander around in tops or hanging out with Ukrainians or whatever he does in his spare time, just and not be Prime Minister. He just becomes then a standard Wally on the street. I don't know. Someone's going to have to remind him that he's just Keir Starmer. His dad's a toolmaker and he's a Wally.
Yeah, and his wife hates him. And so what are you going to do? He's just going to hang around in the Commons tea room where nobody will speak to him because he never spoke to them.
We saw Lisa and Andy say
the whole time. We keep getting that awful Lewis Goodall popping in. Yeah. Anyway, listen, we got to move on. Mark, you've got Count Binface, or as I like to call him, John Harvey.
Yeah, look, I'm all for kind of, novelty pranksters in politics by and large, Mike. I once met the great screaming Lord Sutch, who set up the Monster Raving Loony Party and had a great list of policies that really appealed to me. I think one of my favourites for the old days of the Monster Raving Loony Party was to replace the pound coin with a 99p coin to make it easier that people don't need to dispense 1p of change at the till. I thought that was a pretty good policy from the Monster Raving Loony Party. And Binface, in fairness to him, has got a few corkers as well. I particularly like raising the number of points you get for a try in rugby league from 5 to 7 in line with inflation. But at the start of this Plank of the Week section, Mike, you hit the nail on the head, right? This guy is called John Harvey.
Yeah.
He graduated with a degree in classics from Oxford University. He works for the BBC and Times Radio, a more establishment figure you could not imagine or find. And I wish I was at the meeting in which John Harvey said to his advisors, look, I'm thinking of getting into politics, but I'm just a bit worried. My background, my CV, it looks a bit too establishment. You know, how do you think I could be a bit edgier, a bit more man of the people?
Yeah.
And they said, look, I think the only way you can do it, John, is to pretend to be an intergalactic space warrior from Sigma 9 and put a giant bin on your head, right? That is the extent to which he's willing to go in order to try and look anti-establishment. So I'm all for a bit of fun, but be in no doubt here, Earthlings. Count Binface is an establishment candidate, not an anti-establishment one when it comes to
now
this
there's now a proper anti-establishment candidate, as revealed in his Sun today, Fish Finger Man, who apparently may split the comedy vote because this guy's going to be dressed up as a fish finger and probably has got some real, sort of credibility with ordinary working people because, of course, people who've got classics degrees from Oxford don't eat fish fingers, do they?
No. And it's also worth saying, I don't know what the Count Binface party's approach is to this new insurgent Fish Finger party, but Binface has completely ruled out any form of electoral alliance or non-aggression pact with the official monster raving loony party. So although a lot of people worry, Mike, that there might be splits in the vote on the centre-right of British politics, it's even worse. It's internecine warfare on the loony wing of British politics, split in all sorts of directions. So I'm expecting a pretty dirty fight between Fish Finger Man and Count Binface.
Well, also the ludicrous nature now of British politics is that the Binface has been on Newsnight. I think we've got that. Isn't that the clip we've got? Yeah. Have a look.
We know that the monster raving loony party are running as well. So do you think it's time for a loony bin pact?
I would say, what are we doing here on a programme which used to construct proper investigative journalism and now is a souped-up podcast, Paddy?
Yeah. I mean, he sounds a bit posh, doesn't he?
Does sound a bit posh. I did like him having a jab at Newsnight there. That is basically what it's become. Used to be the absolute sort of top programme for in-depth coverage, and it is now just a souped-up podcast, isn't it? So at least he was willing to have a bit of a go at them. So minor tick in the box for that. But overall, Mike, a plank, right?
Definitely. Paul, I've got you down for the Metropolitan Police, not for the normal reason of them being completely useless and arresting the wrong people, but actually for having to pay off Graham Linehan.
Yeah, they've given my friend Graham Linehan £25,000 to say sorry for absolutely everything they've ever done towards him.
This is our money, by the way.
It just doesn't seem enough, but that's not the point. Graham wins the moral victory here. He was arrested by five armed Metropolitan police officers as he got off a plane from the United States last year and then held for 12 hours to the point that they had to take him to hospital because his heart was beating so fast they were worried he might have a heart attack, and all for a hurty words tweet, and not even that much of a hurty words tweet. So this is an absolute victory for free speech, a moral victory for Graham Linehan, and potentially a victory for common sense. But I'm not sure the Metropolitan Police, the establishment, Binface and Fish Finger Man, what a load of Pollock, by the way, I don't think they understand common sense, so they might not appreciate that. But look, Graham's been through hell and back on this. It's publicly well known that Graham's lost everything. He could have. Yeah. He was the writer of Father Ted, the It Crowd. He could have had Father Ted the musical, but no one would have touched it because Graham Linehan was involved. His marriage broke down. He's moved to the States because he can't stay in the United Kingdom anymore. This is, all for having a gender-critical opinion, which, by the way, when we look back in probably as little as 20 years' time, everyone's going to go, what on earth was all that about? Yeah. We had people arrested for thinking there was a difference between men and women, which was something we were all taught very early on and quite enjoyed learning about, I hasten to add. So I think it's great for Graham. I've not spoken to him since then. I think, it doesn't matter what that money is, 25 grand, 250 grand, 75 million pounds. I mean, that would have been quite nice, I guess. But it's a point proven.
Yeah.
And they've just admitted that there are shortcomings in the investigation, shortcomings in the decision to arrest, and shortcomings in the bail conditions. Basically, shortcomings in everything they had to do.
Right.
They don't have a leg to stand on. What is their purpose?
Right. And also, what's the definition of shortcomings? I mean, is that the new thing? It's just like, actually, no, you just failed at everything. You were useless, hopeless, and completely and utterly baseless allegations were made, which you decided to follow up on. Absolutely mad. Brilliant. So I'm very happy for him. I think he deserves at least 25,000 quid, even though it is our money. I've got to rush through, though, because we've only got about 5 minutes left. Before I go to Harry the Herbert, as I like to call him, formerly known as Prince Harry, have a look at this quote from Kay Burley, which I don't know if you spotted. I think this was also on Newsnight, was it?
If there are people watching who are survivors, how can they get in touch? I mean, they can contact us. We'll pass it on to you. It's newsnight@bbc.co.uk, but that's what you're calling for this evening.
Absolutely. That's what I would love, is for my survivor sisters here to get in touch with me. I believe it, should I say on my website? Okay. On my website, it's iamlisaphillips.com.
And likewise, anyone can come forward. We already have had, as a result of us speaking out, survivors coming forward claiming that they were also victims of Epstein, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, and Ghislaine Maxwell. So we would encourage anyone, please, if you've got any information, to come forward to us.
And these are British?
They are
women?
British, yeah.
Okay.
And we should accept that he was a war hero. We should just throw that in.
Thank you, Alex Davis-Jones, Lisa Phillips.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean,
Sorry?
She should have also added that we should accept that Jeffrey Epstein made a lot of money. She might as well have lobbed that in at the same time as well. Right? He was a successful businessman.
Yeah, did a lot of work. Did a lot of work for charity. Yeah, Andrew the war hero. I mean, do me a favour. I mean, occasionally people say that about Harry, but people have now started to say things about Harry that, well, at least he's not Andrew, and at least he's not done anything that bad. But of course, the reason I'm nominating him is that he lost the biggest lawsuit that he's ever had, the unfortunate presence of mind to bring against Associated Newspapers and Daily Mail. Because not only is he now going to pay them part of his share of £62 million in legal fees and all the rest of it, but he's now basically opened the door to Associated Newspapers to completely and utterly go for him in a way which he'll never have seen the like of in the past. I mean, I guess Elton John, Dame Elton will probably pick up some of the tab, but I'm not sure Harry's got the money.
No, he hasn't got 62 million, has he? I mean, this was a reckless gamble.
Really reckless,
and he lost on every single count.
97 counts. Not one of them was accepted by the judge as legitimate. Incredible.
I reckon his lawyers took him for a bath, right? If you lose,
I've said this, that the old David Sherborne has gone, listen, I think the thing is just keep going. And here's my bill for another £25,000 for yesterday,
Yeah,
just extraordinary.
it's a humiliating defeat, isn't it? Very good nomination, I'd say, Mike.
Yeah, I think it might have to be the winner. I mean, as much as I don't like giving myself the prize, obviously, because that would be wrong, generally speaking. The only final nominee that could knock him off the perch is Andy Burnham, the man who's so likeable to himself that he would eat himself if he was chocolate. Have a look at this, where he went yesterday to vote for himself as leader of the party.
Strange thing to say, but I've just been in to nominate myself to be leader of the Labour Party. The nomination process has opened this morning, so glad to see some MPs going in. I'm still the only candidate in the race. We'll get the first indication about 7 p.m. tonight of the first number of MPs to sign up. But the thing will go on over the next few days, so it won't be the final word. But yeah, it's all starting to feel very real.
Yeah, it's all starting to feel really shit, actually, isn't it?
Oh, really shit. It's like Ricky Gervais's character, David Brent, when he goes on about being a chilled out entertainer.
Right.
Like he just oozes absolute cheese. And the trouble is, we're jumping from Keir Starmer to Andy Burnham.
Yeah.
And he thinks that's the best way to represent himself, given 2 years of the rather sinister nonsense of Starmer. We're now going to get this. Instead of instead of this sinister stuff beyond a veil of incompetence, we're going to get it beyond a veil of this kind of this self-loving business. It's too much. It's too much, Mark.
Aren't I right, Mike? I mean, firstly, it is pretty ridiculous that he says how absolutely proud and honoured he is to be in a race in which he is the only candidate.
Right.
I mean, next stop North Korea, guys. That's the kind of election these guys like. But secondly, am I right on this, Mike? Hasn't he got into trouble for filming and broadcasting from the parliamentary estate?
Oh, yeah,
which you're only allowed to do
that.
with permission.
Yeah, he's supposed to. Yeah,
He's king of the manor already. You can't just film there. So I hope Lucy Powell and her new Ofcom rules are going to come down hard on incoming Prime Minister Burnham. This is an outrageous breach of our broadcasting regulations.
It doesn't suggest that he's got a great grasp of the job, really, does it? So he doesn't even know the rules inside the parliamentary estate, never mind what he's going to do when he gets to Downing Street. So it's terrifying, actually. But we've reached the end of the show already. So I'd have to say, I mean, there are some great nominations in there. I mean, Binface may well make it another week, I think. And it may well be that Andy Burnham, like his predecessor, Keir Starmer, gets nominated every single week that he's in. I think we have to give it to Harry, don't we, today? Because he has been the biggest plank of the week, I think. So I'm going to thank you both very much indeed. Paul Cox, we're going to be seeing you next week, I think. Mark will be seeing you next week as well, no doubt. Enjoy the weekend.
Well, we'll be seeing us later today, Mike, at noon.
Yeah,
oh, you're on at noon. Are you both on at noon? Oh, you're both on at noon. Except this doesn't go out till tonight at 7 o'clock, though. So, no, it does go out.
You'll be seeing us earlier today.
It's live now.
Oh, no, it is actually live. No, sorry.
Live now, as far as I'm aware.
It is live now.
Unless Lucy Powell's changed the broadcasting rules again,
Deliberate
Mike.
mistake on my part there. I'm still getting used to the new format. Anyway, listen, have a great show at 12. I'll see you next week as well as that. Mark Littlewood, Paul Cox, thank you very much indeed. We're going to give it to, of course, Harry, the formerly known as Prince Harry, now Harry the Herbert, Plank of the Week. Well done. £62 million later. Coming up next, Layla Cunningham's here. I'm going to be joining her for a few minutes at the start of her show. We'll find out what she's got to say for herself. And we'll see you, of course, back here on Monday morning at 7. Don't forget, Plonk of the Week goes out Saturday as well. And Plank of the Week, which you've just seen, you can watch again tonight at 7. See you later.
Now, only two sorts of people oppose free speech, and they are at opposite ends of the scale: snowflakes and totalitarians. I am offended, upset, insulted at least 30 times a day. Tough. It is not necessary to flash your knickers to do a decent ballroom dance. Free speech is for all, not for the privileged few. Nobody has the right to live their lives being protected from offence or from insult or from hurt feelings. And if you really can't take it, become a hermit.
Fucking hell. It's like Manchester, isn't it?
Well, I looked yesterday on Waze. I'll check it again in a sec.
I mean, it's sort of, isn't it like sort of east of Manchester or a little bit?